Chapter 1930, The Return, 3. Yi Qingtang led the group of ancient clan people after Ming Di, with the 8 tribe leaders and the rest following after them as well. The effeminate-looking youth was desecrating everything in his path outside the Temple of Shadows. The horde of undead clan soldiers barely lifted a hand before they were all annihilated like sacks of rotting meat. Xue Fu approached first. Knowing full well the strength of the youth, he didn't rush forward and instead looked solemnly at the arrogant boy in front of him. "Ask your holy lord to come out. I didn't get to fight her properly the last time and I want to test her strength properly today." The effeminate-looking youth raised his brows and demanded of Xue Fu. Xue Fu's face darkened and he laughed coldly. "Who do you think you are? Weren't you the one who was too afraid to fight our holy lord that day and ran away with your tail in between your legs? Are you here to seek your own death today?" The blatant insult seemed to hit a nerve, and the effeminate-looking youth narrowed his eyes as his gaze brushed past the cold young man behind him. Seeing that he was expressionless with his hands crossed around his chest, he declared, "I had something else I had to deal with that day." "Who said I ran? Is your holy lord too scared to face me today?" Just as Xue Fu was about to retort sarcastically, a huge black shadow rushed out from within the Temple of Shadows. Xue Fu couldn't help but feel delighted to see that figure. Where did this little brat come from? How dare he speak such big words in front of my Temple of Shadows? With a flourish of wings, Ming Di landed in front of Xue Fu, his red eyes scanning the ground filled with soldiers from the undead clan. "And who are you? I have no interest in wasting my time on you. Get the holy lord to come out right now." The effeminate-looking youth looked impatiently at the dragon in front of him. The only person he was concerned about in the entire Temple of Shadows was the Temple of Shadows, but he had nothing to fear since his senior brother was here today. Ming Di's eyes flashed. Seeing how the boy in front of it didn't recognize it at all, it was suddenly reminded that it had been sealed for over 10,000 years. At this moment, Yi Qingtang had also arrived with the others in tow. "This little brat dared to return?" Little White Tiger muttered as it saw the youth once again killing everything in his path. Yi Qingtang didn't rush to speak and instead looked at the youth and the stranger behind him. The man was a cold and handsome young man. Compared to the effeminate-looking youth, he seemed much calmer. But their clothes were similar and Yi Qingtang guessed that he had probably been called to assist. No wonder the little rascal had dared to come back so quickly. He had found someone to help him. "Holy Lord of Shadows, I was caught up in something else the other day, but let's have a proper battle today. Hand over what I want if you lose," the effeminate-looking youth demanded again. The reactions of 8 tribe leaders as they saw the arrogant youth were vastly different from the reactions of the ancient clan leaders. What did this little brat come from? How dare he impersonate the Holy Lord? He's probably sick of living. A cold laugh ripped out from the demon tribe leader's lips. "And who are you?" "I was talking to the Holy Lord of Shadows." "You have no right to speak here," the effeminate-looking youth said. The demon tribe leader had never been treated with such ridicule before. As one of the 8 tribe leaders, everyone treated him with the utmost respect. It was time to teach the brat a lesson. With one great leap, the demon tribe leader rushed towards the effeminate-looking youth. Chapter 1931, Battle My Steed First, 1. The effeminate-looking youth didn't look remotely worried as the demon tribe leader rushed at him. He lifted his arm and shot a beam of cold light at the elder leader. The demon tribe leader panicked, not expecting the weak youth in front of him to attack with so much power. He had no time to react at all as the beam of light shot towards him. Just as the light was about to hit him, a small hand pushed the demon tribe leader to the side and he managed to escape the fatal attack. "Ming Wang." The demon tribe leader looked at Ming Wang in surprise. Ming Wang looked solemnly at the effeminate youth who had once humiliated him. "Another loser. I've already said that I'm not interested in wasting my time on you. Holy Lord of Shadows, if you insist on not attacking, I'm going to kill off every single person from the undead clan." The effeminate-looking youth didn't even give the demon tribe leader and Ming Wang a second glance, instead focusing all his attention on Yi Qingtang. "You're no match for him," Ming Wang told the demon tribe leader. The demon tribe leader wanted to retort, but fear still lingered in his heart at the thought of that young man's attack. He should consider himself lucky. If my powers aren't suppressed because I'm in the central mainland right now, there would be no place for his arrogance, the demon tribe leader said through clenched teeth. But he had to admit that his current strength was no match for this youth. Holy Lord, look at how arrogant this boy is. We implore the Holy Lord to not show mercy and end him. Seeing the effeminate-looking youth act so presumptuously in front of Yi Qingtang, the ancient clan took this opportunity to fan the flames. Yi Qingtang was speechless. This bunch of old foxes. The effeminate-looking youth's lips twisted as he looked at the ancient clans hiding behind the Holy Lord of Shadows. I was wondering how the ancient clans in the central mainland had all vanished just like that. To think that you all ran here to hide like the rats you are. Did you think that you would be safe if you hid behind the Holy Lord of Shadows? What a joke. You'll all be next after I deal with the Holy Lord of Shadows. You damned brat, you're not worthy to be compared with the Holy Lord. Empowered by Yi Qingtang's presence and angered by the effeminate-looking youth's words, the ancient clans all shouted back at him. With your ability, you're not even qualified to carry the Holy Lord's shoes. Emboldened, the ancient clans continued scolding the youth. The effeminate-looking youth's expression was darkening as well. A hurricane suddenly rose from his feet, sweeping up the ground all around him as his eyes changed color. Are you all done? You bunch of trash, I'll make sure that none of you leave with your lives. I don't have time to deal with you now. Holy Lord of Shadows, do you dare to fight me? Yi Qingtang looked expressionlessly at the angered youth. Meanwhile, the surrounding ancient clans and the 8 tribe leaders all turned to look at Yi Qingtang. Still she remained silent. They were running their mouths so freely just now. To think there was not a peep from them now? Lifting her eyes lightly, Yi Qingtang looked at the effeminate-looking youth and said, "You're not qualified enough for me to make a move." Her dismissive words made him stiffen as his expression darkened further. Are you sure you're not just scared? I see that the Holy Lord of Shadows is just a coward. I would only dirty my hands if I were to fight a person who ran from a battle. Chapter 1932, Battle My Steed First, 2. The face of the effeminate-looking youth turned extremely surly. It was obvious that the Holy Lord of Shadows was mocking him for being scared off earlier. You. Yi Qingtang didn't wait for him to complete his sentence and only continued calmly, if you can win against my steed, I will give you another chance to challenge me. The moment Yi Qingtang uttered those words, Ming Di, who had been suppressing his rage the whole time, finally emitted an earth-shattering roar. Our Holy Lord has no time to play with a little brat like you. Let me test your abilities first. Ming Di's eyes burned with an aggressive fire. He had been waiting for Yi Qingtang to give him the go-ahead all this time. Are you insulting me? The effeminate-looking youth glanced at Ming Di before sneering. The undead clan and members of the ancient clans were completely dumbstruck by the youth's words. He's just a mere steed and he wants to be my opponent? Holy Lord of Shadows, you are really belittling me, aren't you? The effeminate-looking youth stated coldly. Amorous steed? Ming Di narrowed his eyes. The people in the ancient clans all swallowed hard. Even the arrogant 8 tribe leaders stole discreet glimpses at the dangerous glint in Ming Di's gaze. They had seen people with a death wish before, but none as foolhardy as this youth. In the entire central mainland, this youth was the first person who dared to disregard Ming Di in such a bold manner. They saluted his bravery. Ming Di spoke, "The Holy Lord has spoken. If you believe you can defeat me, then you will definitely be able to challenge the Holy Lord. If you are that confident, the Holy Lord will step up." The effeminate-looking youth was clearly still very doubtful of this mere steed, but he did not say anything further. He only turned toward the silent, grim-faced youth standing behind him. The grim-faced youth studied Ming Di. The two of them were still young while Ming Di had been locked up for over 10,000 years. As a result, unlike the other ancient clan folks, they had not heard of Ming Di's fearsome reputation. In their eyes, Ming Di was just the steed of the Holy Lord of Shadows. The grim-faced youth sized up Ming Di and a strange light flashed across his eyes. But he didn't say anything and just nodded at the effeminate-looking youth. Having gotten his senior brother's assent, the effeminate-looking youth spoke again. All right then. I will honor the Holy Lord's wishes and play with your steed. But Holy Lord, let me make one thing clear. Don't blame me if I accidentally kill your steed. The effeminate-looking youth's tone was full of arrogance. The 8 tribe leaders couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat for him. They secretly glanced at Ming-Di, who was already narrowing his eyes once again. Punk, you are truly gifted at seeking death. Yi Qingtang had no idea how powerful Ming-Di was. She just hoped he would be able to stop this youth. But now, it was the cold and grim-faced youth who was worrying her. He was clearly of a higher rank than the effeminate-looking youth. Otherwise, why would he seek the permission of that person? Ming-Di lunged forward with a roar. His massive black wings covered the sky, but the effeminate-looking youth remained unmoved. He just stood there, waiting for the opportunity to quickly finish off this steed and force the Holy Lord of Shadows to step in. Brat, seeing that you have some abilities, I will let you make the first move, Ming-Di offered grandly. A look of disdain crossed the effeminate-looking youth's face as he snorted. I am afraid you cannot even withstand my move. Chapter 1933, Battle My Steed First, 3. No worries, I have a thick and tough hide. Ming-Di's voice was tinged with amusement. That amused tone drifted into the ears of the 8 tribe leaders, making their hairs stand on end. How many years had passed since they had heard that eerie, smiling tone? The effeminate-looking youth clearly didn't think much of Ming-Di. Leaping into the air, he conjured a huge dragon with his hands, before directing it straight at Ming-Di. Ming-Di remained standing steadily where he was, as he looked at the approaching dragon. In the next second, boom! The fire dragon crashed into Ming-Di, sending sparks flying all over. The earth-shaking sound nearly shattered the eardrums of everyone present. The effeminate-looking youth smirked as he watched Ming-Di being engulfed by the flames. It's so hot. I am nearly dying from the heat. A low voice suddenly sounded out from the blaze. The face of the effeminate-looking youth shifted. He watched as the flames were suddenly extinguished before his eyes and Ming-Di emerged. A few tiny flames were still burning upon his black dragon scales. Lifting one claw, Ming-Di blew out the lingering flames with a snort of its nostrils. The effeminate-looking youth was thunderstruck. The 8 tribe leaders nearly laughed out loud at the sight. Their faces turned red from the effort of suppressing their laughter. Kid, you shouldn't play with fire. Were you trying to burn me to death? Ming-Di glanced at the effeminate-looking youth in provocation. The youth studied the jet-black Ming-Di, but couldn't see if he was injured at all. He had wanted to kill Ming-Di with just one blow as he was impatient to get this over with. Seeing that Ming-Di was still standing and talking, the youth leaped into the air and burst into flames. In the blink of an eye, balls of fire rained down from the sky. The fireballs were the size of a human head and pounded hard against Ming-Di's body. Ming-Di was a large creature. It raised one limb to try and avoid the dense rain of fire, but to little success. As the fireballs pelted him relentlessly, Ming-Di cried out as if in great pain. Ah, painful, so painful. Ming-Di was crying out, but his arm only moved in a half-hearted manner. The effeminate-looking youth smirked as he watched the wailing Ming-Di. He didn't realize how the 8 tribe leaders were already staring at him with pity. By the side, Yi Qingtang was astounded by the sight of Ming-Di, who looked as if he had no intention of retaliating. But observing the smile on the effeminate-looking youth, she suddenly realized what was happening. Just as Yi Qingtang seemed to have understood something, a layer of frost covered Ming-Di's body. Yi Qingtang had seen this move before. It was the very move that had defeated Ming Wang. In the blink of an eye, Ming-Di's massive body was encased in a layer of ice. The effeminate-looking youth's smile deepened as he gazed at the trapped Ming-Di. So it seems that the steed of the Holy Lord of Shadows is so mediocre. He patted the layer of ice. You've trapped me in a layer of ice, Ming-Di said. The effeminate-looking youth lifted his chin. Don't worry, I will end your suffering very soon. Don't blame me after you die. Just blame the Holy Lord for sending you to your death. You want to kill me? Ming-Di asked in an incredulous tone. Of course. A murderous glint flashed across the eyes of the youth. He patted the layer of ice again and icicles suddenly shot out and pierced all over Ming-Di. Chapter 1934, A Crushing Defeat, 1. Panic flashed past Ming-Di's eyes the moment the icicles penetrated his body. He appeared to be in great pain. A venomous smile appeared on the face of the effeminate-looking youth. He stared fixedly at Ming Di, who was in apparent agony. Ming Di widened his eyes. With a sudden shift in his gaze, he opened his massive jaws slightly. "Aya, so painful." Ming Di's voice was completely devoid of any pain. As his jaws moved, the layer of ice encasing him suddenly cracked. Before the effeminate-looking youth could react, the layer of ice shattered and fell to the ground in pieces. The icicles failed to penetrate even half an inch into Ming Di's dragon scales. All the icicles looked like they had been grounded down, leaving only half the original length behind. The effeminate-looking youth's smile also broke along with the remnants of ice. As understanding slowly dawned upon him, he widened his eyes and stared at the completely unharmed Ming Di. "How is that possible? Really? So painful?" Ming Di shrugged and the remaining ice shards on its body fell to the ground. Those blood-red eyes were half-closed in a lazy manner filled with indolence. Although the effeminate-looking youth was a fool, it was only now that he finally understood what had happened. "You tricked me." He gritted his teeth as he glared at Ming Di. "So what? I'm going to kill you," the effeminate-looking youth hollered in rage. With that, he burst into raging flames and his eyes were now completely silver in color. He looked like a demon incarnate. As Yi Qingtang observed the changes, she could clearly feel the aura of the youth increase over 2 times. "Holy Lord, this youngster's aura feels off." The demon tribe leader had acute senses and felt the changes too. Powerful practitioners had their secret ultimate move. They would break through their own boundaries when forced into a desperate corner. But this effeminate-looking youth gave off a completely different vibe. The energy felt incompatible with his body, as if he was not using his own power. Yi Qingtang was also able to detect the striking change. But her attention was not on that effeminate-looking youth. Instead, she was discreetly observing the grim-faced youth behind. That youth had maintained a neutral expression the whole time while Ming Di was playing a trick on his partner. He had remained impassive even when he saw that Ming Di was unharmed. It was like he already realized Ming Di was just fooling his partner. Meanwhile, the skin of the effeminate-looking youth had turned a sickly shade of white. The blood vessels under his skin could be clearly seen, making it look like a dense network of black lines had spread throughout his body. With a bellow of rage, the effeminate-looking youth charged toward Ming Di. Ming Di stood there calmly before spreading his black wings slightly. 2 black tornadoes spun out from his wings toward the youth. The moment the tornadoes appeared, the grim-faced youth shifted. A beam of cold light shot out before the eyes of the crowd. Boom! The beam of light collided with the tornadoes. The surrounding earth felt like it would be shattered by the resulting energy. "Senior brother, you didn't have to help me. I can deal with this." The effeminate-looking youth didn't expect his senior brother to make a move. For a moment, he felt somewhat humiliated. After all, he had invited his senior brother to deal with the Holy Lord of Shadows. How could he have his senior brother step in against a mere steed? Chapter 1935, A Crushing Defeat 2. The Holy Lord of Shadows had yet to make any moves. It would be a great loss of face to him if he had to rely on his senior brother when he was just battling her mere steed. The effeminate-looking youth wanted to speak again, but the grim-faced youth slapped him right across the face. "Fool, are you still unable to see the vast disparity between your power and that of the demon dragon?" The face of the effeminate-looking youth turned pale, but he didn't dare to retort. The grim-faced youth glanced past Ming Di to land on Yi Qingtang. He continued in a low voice. "Instead of wasting time, you should finish off this demon dragon with me. The Holy Lord of Shadows is our true target." Not daring to say another word, the effeminate-looking youth immediately nodded. "Oh, 2 of you at once? That's even better." The fire in Ming Di's eyes burned even brighter at the sight of another opponent. The leaders of the ancient clans couldn't help feeling rather nervous at the thought of the other youth joining the battle. "Holy Lord, is it really fine to let Ming Di handle this battle alone?" They had experienced the power of the effeminate-looking youth. And this second youth was clearly even stronger. Would Ming Di be able to cope? The corners of Yi Qingtang twitched imperceptibly as she gazed at the anxious ancient clan members. That's easy for you to say. Go ahead and help Ming Di if you can. Who are you doubting? That is Ming Di you are talking about. The demon tribe leaders snorted coldly. The ancient clan leaders instantly retreated. They did not dare to argue with the demon tribe leader. In the end, they couldn't even defeat that effeminate-looking youth, not to mention the other one. Ming Di gazed at the two youths standing before him. He appeared to have no intention of making the first move. The two youths exchanged a look and immediately went into full battle stances. In the blink of an eye, the aura of the effeminate-looking youth surged again. His eyes were filled with a cold, harsh light while the flames around his body morphed into a massive burning Buddha figure. What kind of skill is that? The ancient clan leaders widened their eyes in disbelief at the sight of that flaming Buddha figure. They had never witnessed such a strange move. The youth leaped into the air and merged into the flaming Buddha figure. A huge orange fire also appeared behind the grim-faced youth, which morphed into a gigantic flying dragon. His dragon was twice the size of Ming Di. The raging flames soared high into the sky and the powerful aura was so oppressive that the ancient clan folks found it difficult to breathe. What kind of powerful force was this? The ancient clan members at present were all elite practitioners in the central mainland. But now, as mere observers on this battlefield, they were already having trouble breathing from the mighty aura radiated by those two youths. Yi Qingtang also felt her chest grow heavy. Luckily, she had recently risen to the Paragon level. If she was still at the Heavenly Venerate level, she would likely have exposed her true identity. As such, Yi Qingtang and the 8 tribe leaders were powerful enough to withstand the aura. But those soldiers of the undead clan were already collapsing from the powerful energy. One by one, they fell to the ground in spasms, their bones clattering non-stop. The aura of those two youths was enough to shatter the bones of the undead. A sliver of impatience surfaced in Ming Di's eyes as he gazed at the flaming Buddha figure and flying dragon. And I thought you guys were going to be interesting, boring. Ming Di suddenly opened its jaws wide and gave an earth-shattering roar. Chapter 1936, A Crushing Defeat, 3, Roar. The flaming Buddha and flying dragon figures were instantly extinguished by Ming Di's powerful roar. At the same time, the two youths, who had merged into their flaming figures, plummeted straight down into the ground. Blood spurted out of their mouths at the moment of impact. Before they could even try to struggle to get up, a massive black shadow suddenly appeared before them. Ah! Terrible shrieks resonated across the otherwise silent battlefield. Ming Di had driven 2 sharp claws into their abdomens and pinned them to the ground. Fresh blood poured out of their wounds and dyed the earth beneath them a deep red. Punks, you two have provoked the wrong people. Ming Di gazed down imperiously at the two youths. It was as though he was looking down at 2 tiny ants. The effeminate-looking youth continued to vomit blood and his face turned increasingly pale as he stared at Ming Di in disbelief. It was impossible. He couldn't believe the fact that he hadn't been able to withstand even a single blow from Ming Di. How many ancient clan people had perished in his hands? Countless powerful practitioners had died in the face of his mighty power. But now, the effeminate-looking youth finally understood the taste of fear. This demon dragon was not something they could even dream of defending against. All his aura vanished without a trace at this moment. The ancient clan members, who had been gasping from the overwhelming aura, were now staring dumbfounded at Ming Di. They had been so fearful of those two youths, but the demon dragon was now stepping on them like they were insignificant little ants. If they hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, they would never have believed the wide disparity in power. As they turned instinctively toward Yi Qingtang, their eyes were full of awe and respect. The Holy Lord of Shadows had disappeared for 10,000 years. Those of them in Central Mainland had nearly forgotten the fear that the Holy Lord used to inspire. The Holy Lord is truly great. Those youths were indeed no match for the Holy Lord. One of the ancient clan leaders discreetly wiped off his cold sweat as he addressed Yi Qingtang with utmost respect. Yi Qingtang, was this demon dragon that powerful? No wonder the Holy Lord was unwilling to step in. They were unworthy. Finally snapping out of their daze, the other ancient clan folks also started to laud Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang cast a mild look in their direction but otherwise remained silent. Inwardly, she felt that she had gained yet another layer of understanding of just how formidable Ming Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows were. No wonder the Holy Lord of Shadows had been touted as the most powerful being in Central Mainland. Just Ming Di alone was enough to destroy a good number of the elite practitioners in Central Mainland. Now that Ming Di had overcome those two youths, Yi Qingtang wanted to get more information from them. She had a feeling that there was a greater power behind these two youths. Otherwise, given their young age, how could these two youngsters possibly know so much? Just as Ming Di was prepared to swallow them both, Yi Qingtang spoke up. I want them alive. Ming Di looked very unhappy, but he still shut his jaws. The grim-faced youth saw that they were no match for Ming Di. He started gathering his energy again, and just as everyone thought he was going to make a last-ditch attempt to fight back, he suddenly turned and directed his attack on the dying, effeminate-looking youth. The effeminate-looking youth never imagined that he would die at the hands of his own people. He died with his eyes wide open as he choked on his final breath. Chapter 1937, The Mastermind Behind It All, 1. You still dare to resist? Ming Di was enraged. How dare this fellow kill off its prey right? A light flashed across the eyes of the grim-faced youth as he watched his partner draw his last breath. As Ming Di raged on, the youth suddenly dug his own hands into his chest and tore it apart. He moved so quickly that Yi Qingtang could not react in time. Did he go mad? The ancient clan leaders were all bewildered. But the moment that youth tore open his own chest, a nearly imperceptible wisp of smoke suddenly flew out from his heart. The wisp of smoke moved very quickly and disappeared within the blink of an eye. Trying to escape? Ming Di narrowed its eyes. Opening his jaws wide, he inhaled deeply. With one powerful intake of breath, Ming Di sucked the dissipating smoke right into its belly. Yi Qingtang wanted to stop him but could only stare on as Ming Di's throat bobbed up and down. Oh no, he already swallowed it. Stupid little bug. Ming Di snorted coldly. Lifting its claws, it tossed the two limp corpses across the ground. Yi Qingtang felt a headache coming on. That grim-faced youth was clearly trying to eliminate his partner and escape, to prevent themselves from being interrogated. Ming Di didn't let him escape, but the youth still managed to achieve his goal. Go and check if there are any clues on their bodies. Yi Qingtang suppressed the exasperation she was feeling. This Ming Di was very powerful, but its character could only be described by one word: impulsive. With the undead clan in tow, Ming Wang went forward to investigate the bodies of the two youths. They discovered some random Dharma artifacts and a fragment of the spirit of chaos in their space rings. Yi Qingtang's heart quivered when she accepted the spirit of chaos fragment from Ming Wang. The spirit of chaos fragment was palm-sized and no different from any ordinary-looking black metal. But holding it in her hand, Yi Qingtang felt no weight at all. It was as if this fragment didn't exist. The ancient clan members felt very envious when they saw that Yi Qingtang had discovered a fragment of the spirit of chaos. It must be pointed out that each of the ancient clans owned just one fragment of the spirit of chaos, and everyone would wish to possess more pieces. But at present, the ancient clan members wisely kept quiet. They silently acquiesced to the fact that this fragment belonged to the Temple of Shadows. After personally witnessing Ming Di's power, no one would dare to make an enemy of the Temple of Shadows unless they were insane. It was Yi Qingtang's first time seeing the spirit of chaos. She had spent a long time trying to find the fragment belonging to the Holy Lord of Shadows but failed to locate it. Despite being very curious, Yi Qingtang had to pretend to be nonchalant. She just gave it a few casual looks before placing it into her space ring. Holy Lord, we couldn't find any accessories on the bodies, but we did find a sort of symbol. Xue Fu stepped forward to report. Oh, what symbol? Yi Qingtang asked. Xue Fu had his men drag over the bodies of the youths. Both youths had a palm-sized circular symbol tattooed in the middle of their backs. The symbol did not look familiar. Yi Qingtang had never seen such a symbol before. Do any of you recognize the symbol? Yi Qingtang looked toward the ancient clan members and the 8 tribe leaders. The 8 tribe leaders stepped forward to take a look. But they were likewise puzzled and shook their heads before retreating to the side. The ancient clan members also took a look, but none of them had seen such a symbol before either. Chapter 1938, The Mastermind Behind It All, 2, No one recognized the symbol. Yet another lead had come to a dead end. Yi Qingtang gave an inward sigh. Just as she was about to order her men to look over the bodies again, one of the ancient clan elders suddenly spoke up. Holy Lord, this symbol looks very strange. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Speak. The elder didn't know how to explain it. Instead, he copied the symbol on a piece of paper before adding a few strokes to the drawing. As the elder added more strokes, the faces of the crowd changed. Isn't this the family crest of the ancient Yu clan? One of the clan leaders widened his eyes in astonishment after the elder finished his drawing. That's right. I initially found the symbol rather familiar, but couldn't understand why. But then I suddenly realized that this symbol is quite similar to the family crest of the ancient Yu clan, the elder explained. I heard before that the ancient Yu clan secretly groomed a batch of kamikaze soldiers. They were all exemplary youths selected from the various branches of the ancient Yu clan. The youths were brought to an unknown place for special training. Even their own parents don't know where they were taken. Another ancient clan leader frowned as he spoke. It was common knowledge that the various ancient clans would secretly cultivate talented members of their own. Most of this training was done in secret, and they would be put into service for the family clan after their training was completed. Most of the ancient clans would mark those youths with a special symbol during training, which also contained a curse. The youth would suffer a massive counterforce if he tried to betray the clan. After all, the ancient clans spent massive amounts of time and effort in grooming those youths. It would be a great loss to them if the youth decided to betray them. Don't tell me that those two youths were kamikaze soldiers groomed by the ancient Yu clan? The ancient Yu clan wanted to rob us of our spirit of chaos fragments? Everyone was stunned by this conjecture. How could that be? How could the ancient Yu clan have groomed such powerful practitioners? The powers of the various ancient clans were more or less equivalent to each other. It was incomprehensible to them that the ancient Yu clan was able to groom such devastatingly formidable practitioners. Moreover, those youths were still very young, looking to be in their early teens. Even the most gifted child would not be able to attain such great powers within such a short period of time. A furious discussion broke out amongst the crowd. Only Yi Qingtang remained quietly pensive. Ancient Yu clan? Others might not believe that the ancient Yu clan could become so powerful in such a short period. But Yi Qingtang knew very well that it was possible. This was simply because of little Yu Yun. The ancient Yu clan had kidnapped little Yu Yun in the first mainland. And little Yu Yun's spiritual abode was exceedingly powerful. Linking the strange things occurring in the ancient Yu clan in central mainland recently, plus the symbols on these two youths, Yi Qingtang could more or less confirm that the ancient Yu clan was behind it all. No need to guess anymore. Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke out. Holy Lord! The crowd stared at Yi Qingtang in confusion. The ancient Yu clan is behind all of this. But many of the ancient clan members were not convinced. Yi Qingtang cut them off and continued. Before you say anything, you should first think carefully about the recent actions of the ancient Yu clan. Chapter 1939, The Mastermind Behind It All, 3, Yi Qingtang's words sent them all into silence. It was true that the ancient Yu clan had been acting differently lately. They hadn't attended the previous martial arts championship, even though the ancient Yu clan were always trying their best to come on top. They had been too indifferent this time. Furthermore, they had been taking rather big actions lately, acting arrogantly on the central mainland, which rubbed some of the other ancient clans the wrong way. But then they realized that the power of the ancient Yu clan had gotten stronger than before. These had all happened gradually over time, which was why none of them had noticed the connection between the events. As for the current massacres of the ancient clans that were occurring, there had been no news from the ancient Yu clan at all. Some of the ancient clans closer to them had wanted to warn them but had received no reply at all. In fact, they had not received any news about the ancient Yu clan being attacked either. Combined with the fact that the power of the ancient Yu clan had greatly increased previously, they couldn't help but suspect whether the mastermind of all this was the ancient Yu clan. Could it really be the ancient Yu clan? Damn it, I knew that those old scoundrels were up to no good. I treated them as madmen when they were acting so arrogantly on the central mainland. With Yi Qingtang's words, they finally strung together the hints that they had missed out previously. But this only made them panic even more. Even in the past, the ancient Yu clan's audacious ambition had never been lacking. If they were to talk about ambition, few people on the central mainland could beat the ancient Yu clan. No wonder domain monarch Jiang was the first to go. The ancient Yu clan had already been eyeing the title of domain monarch for the longest time. They had challenged them multiple times previously already, so if they were to make a move, the first they would attack would definitely be the one most at odds with them. Yi Qingtang's heart sank as she heard this. The ancient clan people all started chattering among themselves, all of them wanting nothing more than to deal with the ancient Yu clan immediately. But they all knew that they were no match for them at all. After all, they had sent out 2 youths who had wiped out many of the ancient clans with barely any effort. Who knew how strong the ancient Yu clan was now? Yi Qingtang had her own thoughts and didn't want to spend any more time guessing with them here, so she sent them back to rest first. The ancient clan people now followed Yi Qingtang's every word obediently and didn't dare waste any time ushering Yi Qingtang back into the Temple of Shadows. Likewise, they also didn't dare take one step out of the Temple of Shadows. Now that they knew who their opponent was, how would they dare leave this haven? The ancient clans who had disagreements with the ancient Yu clan were all fearful now. They quickly sent messages back to their clan to arrange for their transfer. Then they hid in the Temple of Shadows with the elite members of their clan and did not dare to step out at all. All their hope was now placed on the Temple of Shadows. They were all clear on the fact that apart from the Holy Lord of Shadows, none of them was a match for the ancient Yu clan. As the news spread, more and more ancient clan came to the Temple of Shadows to seek protection. Soon enough, the Temple of Shadows transformed into a center of refuge. Chapter 1940, Ancient Yu Clan, 1. Somewhere hidden in the valleys of the central mainland. A white-haired old man was standing in a huge pavilion. As he lifted his eyes slightly, his gaze fell on the wall of the pavilion. There were many crystal balls crammed onto the wall, all of them glowing from the inside. Suddenly, without a warning, 2 crystal balls split open and shattered onto the floor. The gaze of the old man changed and a middle-aged man guarding outside rushed in. "You Feng and you choose crystal balls shattered?" The middle-aged man frowned as he looked at the 2 shattered crystal balls. The old man's gaze swept over the 2 crystal balls and he said solemnly, "Where did they go?" The middle-aged man thought for a moment before saying, Yu Feng had been following orders obediently, obtaining the spirit of chaos fragments from the ancient clans. But he seemed to have suffered some humiliation at the Temple of Shadows and went to find Yu Chu after he came back. Before the middle-aged man finished speaking, the old man retracted his gaze. The middle-aged man said, "These life pearls are the source of their lives. Since they are broken, does this mean that at the Temple of Shadows, they died there?" the old man said lightly. The middle-aged man froze before understanding what the old man said. If their life source had shattered, it could only mean that they were no longer alive. "Are you going to send anyone else to continue the mission since they're dead?" The old man nodded slightly. He lifted his arm to point out 2 other crystal balls and said, "Let them go." "Yes." The middle-aged man accepted the order but said hesitantly, "What about the Temple of Shadows?" The old man had both his hands behind his back as he turned to step out of the pavilion. The Holy Lord of Shadows used to exist on the mainland. If she has truly returned, her strength is not to be underestimated. Our main goal is to collect the spirit of chaos fragments from the ancient clan. We are not going to deal with the Holy Lord of Shadows at this stage. But I've heard that many ancient clans have already gone to the Temple of Shadows for protection, the middle-aged man said. The old man narrowed his eyes slightly and walked deeper into the valley. In front of him was a huge palace. The gates of the palace were slightly ajar. It was pitch black inside the palace and there was no movement at all. Suddenly, a pair of glowing silver eyes appeared through the gap between the gates. It was looking outside the palace. The old man narrowed his eyes further and spoke to the middle-aged man behind him. "It doesn't matter. It won't be too late even if we deal with the Temple of Shadows after collecting the spirit of chaos fragments from the other ancient clans on the mainland." We have nothing to fear about the ancient clans. If anything, now that they've all gathered at the Temple of Shadows, it saves us the trouble of having to search for them. Yes. The middle-aged man understood his intentions. They didn't have to deal with the Temple of Shadows now. But he asked again after some hesitation, how are we going to deal with the elder on the east side? Deal with him? The old man laughed slightly and said, well, spare their lives if they understand what's going on, but… The old man paused for a while before saying, they are bound to find out about what happened to the domain monarch and the Jiang family. Remember, we have to collect all the fragments of the spirit of chaos. Not one piece can be missing. Yes. Having received his orders, the middle-aged retreated before rushing to the east side of the valley. Chapter 1941, Ancient Yu Clan, 2. There were a few pavilions over there. The middle-aged man went forward and saw a lady standing at the entrance of one of the pavilions. She looked like she was pondering something. Somewhat startled by the sight of the middle-aged man, she took a quick step forward. Warden. The middle-aged man maintained his cold expression, completely devoid of the earlier respect he had shown the elders. He glanced impatiently at the lady. Jiang Qin, did you manage to recall if the Jiang family had any more hiding places in the mainland? The lady standing outside the pavilion was indeed Jiang Qin of the Jiang family. She had already lost the arrogance she exuded during her days in the Jiang family. She gazed respectfully and timidly at the middle-aged man. I have already written down all the estates owned by the Jiang family and handed the list over to you. We have gone to all those places but could not find any traces of the domain monarch. The middle-aged man frowned impatiently. Jiang Qin looked increasingly grim. Jiang Qin, if Tuoba Yao had not been wise enough to jump ship to our ancient Yu clan, you would have all already died when we destroyed the Jiang family. I will give you another 2 days. If you cannot provide any useful leads by then… The middle-aged man didn't complete his sentence. But the threat in his tone was evident. Without waiting for Jiang Qin to respond, the middle-aged man turned and left, leaving Jiang Qin standing there alone, her face pallid with fear. After the middle-aged man left, the door behind Jiang Qin slowly opened. Yi Yu and Yi Sun peeked out cautiously from behind the door. Aunt Qin, Yi Yu looked at the grim-looking Jiang Qin. Jiang Qin snapped out of her trance. Aunt Qin, did the Jiang family really own only those few estates? Have you given it careful thought? The ancient Yu clan is so powerful. Even the Jiang family was not spared. If they wanted our lives, I am afraid… Yi Yu bit her lips as she stared at Jiang Qin with deep fear in her eyes. Jiang Qin's originally grim face turned an even paler shade of white. I know. I already told them everything. The moment we decided to jump ship to the ancient Yu clan, I already planned to serve them wholeheartedly. I even told them about the secret tunnels in the compound for their first attack on the Jiang family. Jiang Qin furrowed her brows. No one could ever imagine that there was a traitor in the Jiang family who led to their demise. And this traitor was the domain monarch's biological daughter and granddaughters. Now that the ancient Yu clan was so powerful and getting exponentially stronger by the day, the two clans were already long at odds with each other. After Tuoba Yao got news of Jiang Qin's punishment, he had pleaded with the domain monarch to let her out. But the domain monarch had refused. As a result, Tuoba Yao had secretly contacted the ancient Yu clan. Knowing that the domain monarch was displeased with Jiang Qin, the couple had shrewdly decided to jump ship over to the ancient Yu clan. And helping the ancient Yu clan to destroy the Jiang family. This was Jiang Qin's great present to the ancient Yu clan. A show of her loyalty. But Jiang Qin had been imprisoned then and could not transmit information. The Yi family was actually the one who had opened the doors of the Jiang family for the ancient Yu clan. Now that the Jiang family had been destroyed, the domain monarch had fled with a group of family members after the major battle. Jiang Qin, Yi Yu, and the rest had immediately sought protection under the ancient Yu clan. Aunt Qin, I know you have tried your best, but you saw clearly what the ancient Yu clan wants. Yi Yu pursed her lips. Jiang Qin's face became very grave. Let me see if I can think of other solutions. Chapter 1942, Ancient Yu Clan, 3. Aunt Qin, I know you are feeling very guilty. But now that things have progressed to this stage, we are already at the point of no return. If grandfather knows, we betrayed the Jiang family. I am afraid that you didn't continue. Jiang Qin's heart gave a heavy thump. I know. You go back and rest first. Jiang Qin patted Yi Yu on the shoulder before turning to leave. Yi Yu looked at Jiang Qin's departing profile. A cold smile took over the subservient and worried look on her face. In contrast, Yi Sun appeared very despondent. How could she not know how heartless Yi Yu was? Yi was already like this when in the Yi family. But after personally witnessing Yi Yu cause the demise of the entire Jiang family without an ounce of regret, Yi Sun was now feeling increasingly frantic. Yi Sun knew very well that Jiang Qin treated Yi Yu as her own daughter. But Yi Yu did not reciprocate the same feelings. Sun, come with me to find the warden of the ancient Yu clan. Yi Yu suddenly spoke up after Jiang Qin left. Sister Yu, why are you seeking out the warden? Yi Sun was surprised. Jiang Qin might not be able to find the domain monarch and the rest of the Jiang family. If this drags on, the ancient Yu clan will be very displeased with us. Yi Yu narrowed her eyes. Sister Yu, you have another solution? Yi Sun looked at Yi Yu. Yi Yu smiled but kept silent. She just went to find the ancient Yu clan warden with Yi Sun in tow. Meanwhile, quite a large number of the ancient clan members had gathered at the Temple of Shadows. News of the ancient Yu clan being the mastermind had spread quietly across the various ancient clans. Thereafter, an increasing number of people sought protection under the temple. The 8 tribe leaders were very unhappy about this. But they had no choice but to maintain their silence, as Yi Qingtang didn't chase those folks off. Yi Qingtang allowed the various clan members to stay on at the temple, but not without putting them to task. The Temple of Shadows was very powerful, but it would be even stronger with the gathered forces of the various ancient clans. Making use of the opportunity, Yi Qingtang instructed the clan leaders to discreetly make use of their connections to investigate the ancient Yu clan. Yi Qingtang knew the reason behind the ancient Yu clan's sudden increase in power. But she had no idea just how powerful the clan was now. She had to know, as a result, she needed to tap into the informant network of the various ancient clans. At the same time, she also hinted for the clan members to go investigate the clans who had been massacred, to see if there were any further news on them, especially the domain monarch's Jiang clan. It appears that the ancient Yu clan has no intention of attacking the Temple of Shadows in the near future. Little White Tiger was sprawled across Yi Qingtang's knee. The entire Temple of Shadows had gone on high alert since the death of those 2 youths. But after 2 weeks of waiting, there was still no news of any impending attack. It's only a matter of time before they come after us. From the intelligence gathered by the various ancient clans, they are still robbing others of the spirit of chaos fragments. They are not attacking the Temple of Shadows now, as they are leaving us to the last. Yi Qingtang was no fool. She could easily surmise the intentions of the ancient Yu clan. As Yi Qingtang mused worriedly, there was finally some news regarding the Jiang family. Yi Qingtang hurried over. Holy Lord, the ancient Yu clan has destroyed several more ancient clans. We also found out that the ancient Yu clan is trying to seek out the whereabouts of the domain monarch. Several Jiang family hideouts were attacked in sequence. It looks like the ancient Yu clan has yet to obtain the spirit of chaos fragment belonging to the domain monarch. Chapter 1943, Hostage 1. Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing the report. No one had seen the bodies of Jiang Lang and his wife, so perhaps they managed to escape with the domain monarch. However, it was somewhat strange. According to the ancient clan folks, the Jiang family had managed to keep their hideouts a secret. Even their informants only found out about them after the ancient Yu clan raided them. Yi Qingtang had not heard anyone mention those hideouts before either. Those hideouts must have been a highly classified secret. So how did the ancient Yu clan know of them? Oh yes, Holy Lord, there are a few more ancient clans who wish to seek protection under you. They are waiting for you outside the temple. One of the ancient clan leaders spoke up. Yi Qingtang was already used to this. The stream of ancient clan folks who had come seeking protection had been relentless in recent days. Silent acquiescence was acceptance. Those ancient clan leaders immediately led their men into the Temple of Shadows. But compared to the first wave of clan members, these folks appeared exceptionally wretched and pathetic. Everyone's spirits appeared to have suffered significantly. Our humble greetings, Holy Lord. The clan leaders stepped forward and bowed. Their faces looked haggard and fatigued. Upon seeing those ancient clan leaders, the expressions of the 8 tribe leaders shifted. Isn't that the leader of the Chinue clan? How did you manage to find time out of your busy schedule to come to pay a visit to our Temple of Shadows? The Goblin tribe leader raised his brows in sarcasm. His comment made the clan leader very awkward and sheepish. There had been some conflicts between the Chinue clan and the Goblin tribe earlier on. As such, it wasn't surprising that the Goblin tribe leader had always hated the Chinue clan. Previously, when the various ancient clans had come seeking protection, the Chinue clan had publicly claimed that they would never abide by the Temple of Shadows. But now, the Chinue clan had come running to the Temple of Shadows for protection like a dog with its tail between its legs. The Chinue clan leader smiled bitterly after being ridiculed, but could not find any reason to retort. He gazed up at Yi Qingtang, sitting high up on her throne. Holy Lord, I was too arrogant. After knowing the culprit was the ancient Yu clan, I thought I could arrange for my people to flee and hide beforehand, but I never expected the ancient Yu clan to be so vicious. They pursued us until we had nowhere to run or hide. Along with a number of other ancient clans in the mainland, the Chinue clan did not seek protection under the Temple of Shadows. Their leader thought they could flee with their people and hide out until it was safe. They never expected the ancient Yu clan to be so cruel. They slaughtered anyone who had any sort of connection to the Chinue clan. The ancient Yu clan pursued after them relentlessly, capturing their loved ones and holding them hostage. Holy Lord, they have threatened to kill off every single person they have captured if we don't show up in 5 days. The viciousness of the ancient Yu clan is beyond belief. Yi Qingtang sighed inwardly at the words of the Chinue clan leader. She knew better than anyone else how vicious the ancient Yu clan could be. Countless living creatures in the first mainland had perished because of them. It's not just us. Even some members of the Jiang family have been captured by the ancient Yu clan. Who? Yi Qingtang's heart quivered on hearing the words, Jiang family, but she had to maintain her neutral expression. I believe they are the close family of the domain monarch. The ancient Yu clan already announced that if the domain monarch doesn't show up in 5 days, they will publicly execute those captured people from the Jiang family. Having experienced the persecution by the ancient Yu clan, the other ancient clan members were no longer surprised by the cruel methods employed. Chapter 1944, Hostage 2. The ancient Yu clan was forcing the ancient clans to reveal themselves. Although Ming Di had killed off those 2 youths, the ancient Yu clan did not slow down their massacre. Several other exemplary youths had appeared during this period of time. Like the first 2, they were all very young but extremely powerful. Everyone was shocked and intimidated by this display of the ancient Yu clan's might. No one knew just how many more such formidable youths the ancient Yu clan had. In the entire mainland, only the Temple of Shadows could stand up against that clan. Those first few ancient clans who had sought protection under the Temple of Shadows couldn't help feeling relieved that they took such quick action. They managed to lead their people to the Temple of Shadows before the ancient Yu clan went on their killing spree. Otherwise, they would probably end up like the Chinue clan, with a large portion of their own people being held hostage to force them to emerge. If they didn't turn up, those people would die horrible deaths. If they did, with their current capabilities, they would be just like lambs sent for slaughter. Yi Qingtang's heart sank on hearing their discussion. She had yet to find out the whereabouts of Jiang Lang and his wife. The thing that worried her the most was the 2 of them falling into the hands of the ancient Yu clan. First, she had to confirm if Jiang Lang and his wife were among the hostages. In addition, she had to make use of this chance to thoroughly investigate the current power of the ancient Yu clan. Even as Yi Qingtang soothed over the rising emotions of the ancient clan folks, she couldn't help worrying over the hostages held by the ancient Yu clan. As no one could tell her if Jiang Lang and his wife were among the hostages, the only way was to personally go over to take a look. There was no time like the present. Yi Qingtang decided to investigate that very night with Ming Di. After knowing Yi Qingtang's plans, the other ancient clan folks requested to go along with her, so that they could help her if required. How could Yi Qingtang not see through to their true intentions? They were just worried that without Ming Di and her around, there would be no one strong enough to protect the Temple of Shadows. In other words, they were only scared of death. Yi Qingtang knew that they would find all sorts of excuses to tag along even if she objected to their request now. By then, things might get messy and she might accidentally expose her true identity. As a result, she granted her approval on the condition that they followed her instructions to a T. The various ancient clans had no objections to that at all. Those few ancient clans who had just arrived, including the Qingyue clan, also chose to tag along despite having had no time to rest. With Yi Qingtang and Ming Di around, they finally had some hope of rescuing their own people. After all, with their lack of abilities, there was no way they would dare to make any moves on their own. Somewhere in a canyon situated in the territory of the ancient Yu clan, 2 ancient Yu clan sentries were guarding the entrance. Several sizable metal cages were placed close by. The cages were crammed full of haggard and despondent-looking prisoners, who were wearing the uniforms of the various ancient clans. The family emblems which had once brought them great honor had now become the reason behind their wretched state. It was dawn. The sky started to brighten and a chilly wind blew into the valley. Exposed to the elements, the bone-chilling wind blew into the cages, making the prisoners shiver from the cold. Most of them had suffered severe injuries. Their clothes were splattered with blood stains, but none of their wounds had received any treatment. Ravaged by the howling winds, their life energy started to drain bit by bit as time went by. Chapter 1945. Hostage 3. Death could claim any one of those prisoners at any time. With their grave injuries, there were already many dead bodies collapsed on the floor of the metal cages. As the weather had been rather hot and humid the past few days, the corpses had already started to rot. Squeezed in the cages with the dead bodies, the survivors had to endure the overwhelming stench of decay. The shadow of death shrouded the hearts of everyone. They watched as their own people died, knowing that it would soon be their fate. Just months ago, these people were the much-admired and respected elite of the ancient clans. But now, they were just a bunch of livestock squeezed in a metal cage with their dead companions. Despondence was written on the faces of nearly everyone inside. Any initial hope in their eyes had already been gradually eroded by despair. As the ancient Yu clan continued on their path of destruction, every prisoner knew that it was a one-way road to hell for anyone captured. No one would come to rescue them. It would be a suicidal mission. They had already been abandoned by the rest of the world. The ancient Yu clan sentries at the entrance completely disregarded those imprisoned ancient clan folks. In their eyes, they were no different from a bunch of rotting corpses, clinging pathetically on to their last breath. Instead, the sentries were on high alert for anyone who might try to rescue the prisoners. As Yi Qingtang led her group to the canyon, they stuck closely to the side of a steep rock face to keep themselves from sight. It wasn't difficult to spot the metal cages from afar, as well as the completely disheartened hostages trapped within. Looking at the wretched state of their own people, the eyes of those clans who had suffered under the ancient Yu clan all turned red like raging beasts. The ancient Yu clan is so despicable. We should just fight them to the death. One of the ancient clan elders gritted his teeth. They might have been able to quietly endure their loss if they hadn't personally witnessed those prisoners. But now that they had seen the hostages, it was near impossible to turn their backs on them. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes as she surveyed the prisoners. She then shot the 8 tribe leaders a discreet look, indicating that they should hold back the ancient clan folks. The ancient Yu clan had boldly left those hostages out in plain view, precisely because they wanted to provoke the rage of the other clan members and make them act impulsively. Now was not the time to show how loyal one was. If they just charged in now, they would just end up being caught in the trap set by the ancient Yu clan. Luckily, the ancient clan folks still had some common sense. They knew that they still had to rely on Yi Qingtang and Ming Di, and didn't let their emotions blind their actions. Yi Qingtang surveyed the prisoners inside the cages, trying to see if there was anyone from the Jiang family. Soon enough, she noticed several familiar figures inside one of the cages. As she squinted her eyes to look closer, Yi Qingtang saw 3 familiar-looking females squeezed in that metal cage. Wasn't that Yi Yu, Yi Sun, and Jiang Qin? Apart from them, Yi Qingtang didn't see anyone else from the Jiang family. At this, Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Qingtang didn't care if it were only these three who were captured. Even if the ancient Yu clan didn't take Yi Yu's life, it was just a matter of time before Yi Qingtang personally killed her. But just as Yi Qingtang relaxed, she noticed one of the patrolling sentries discreetly drop a cloth pouch into Yi Yu's cage as he passed by them. Chapter 1946, Brutes 1. There were some other grim-faced people in the same cage as Yi Yu and the other two. Yi Qingtang did not recognize any of those people, but she did notice that after the cloth pouch was passed inside, it was quickly blocked from view by those people. From her high vantage point, it was pure coincidence that she happened to see what happened. After those people blocked the cloth pouch from sight, Yi Yu and the other two immediately opened the pouch and took out some food from it. Then they quickly gobbled it all up. Strange. No one cared if any one of the hostages were near death. None of the ancient Yu clan folks displayed the slightest bit of pity or mercy. So why would the ancient Yu clan sentry suddenly be so kind as to give food to Yi Yu and the others? Yi Qingtang took a closer look and discovered that although Yi Yu and the other two were injured and looked very haggard, there was no despair in their eyes. That type of hopelessness was difficult to feign. In addition, there were no corpses inside their cage. Apart from Yi Yu and the other two females, the other people inside the cage were youths in their early teens. Does that cage contain any of your people? Yi Qingtang pointed toward Yi Yu's cage. The ancient clan members all thought that Yi Qingtang was going to save the hostages. They immediately leaned forward to try and identify the people. But after studying the prisoners for some time, none of the ancient clan members could recognize any one of those youths at all. It was very strange. The leaders and elders could not identify those youths even though they were garbed in the uniforms of the ancient clans. Yi Qingtang smelled a rat. Just as Yi Qingtang was pondering what kind of trick the ancient Yu clan was up to, several figures suddenly appeared at the entrance of the canyon. Glancing at the group, Yi Qingtang noticed the figure at the front. Domain Monarch? How is that possible? Why did he come? One of the ancient clan elders instantly recognized the wild-haired Domain Monarch. It was the long-missing Domain Monarch. Yi Qingtang's eyes narrowed the moment she saw the Domain Monarch. Her heart nearly came to a stop when she saw the people tagging along behind. Jiang Sun? Jiang Lang? The sentries immediately sounded the signal when they saw the Domain Monarch. The faces of the trio were all tensed up as if prepared to go into battle. Suddenly, a wild wind started up as dust and sand swirled beneath the hands of the Domain Monarch. The sentries were sent flying away by the wild gusts of wind. Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang took this opportunity to charge into the canyon to locate members of the Jiang family. Have those Jiang family people gone mad? They are just throwing themselves into a trap. They've been tricked. The ancient clan members never expected the Domain Monarch to really come forth to save his own people. They really believed the Domain Monarch must have gone mad. The Jiang family has always valued the family above all. But this time, the Domain Monarch really shouldn't have come. A large number of ancient clan folks had been captured, but no one dared to charge in to rescue them. But now, they watched as the Jiang family risked everything to save their own people. Although this was akin to bashing one's head against a hard rock, this kind of courage was also rather admirable. The ancient clan members expressed a combination of regret and respect. Yi Qingtang was the only one who felt both shock and joy upon seeing Jiang Lang and Jiang Sun. She was happy they were still alive but shocked that they were throwing their lives away now. And all just to save those three. Holy Lord, now that the Jiang family has arrived, should we take this opportunity when the two clans are fighting too? One of the ancient clan leaders hinted that they should take advantage of the scuffle to save their own people. Yi Qingtang didn't respond. Instead, she kept her eyes fixed upon Jiang Lang and the others. Chapter 1947, Brutes 2. Ming Di, Yi Qingtang said softly. Wait for my signal. Yi Qingtang gritted her teeth. She could ignore it if they had been anyone else, but she had to save Jiang Lang and Jiang Sun. She couldn't watch the two who treated her like their own family member die so cruelly in the hands of the ancient Yu clan. Finally, Ming Di's eyes were burning, anticipating a huge fight. The ancient clans all thought that Yi Qingtang was finally going to attack the ancient Yu clan, and they all perked up. There were only a few soldiers from the ancient Yu clan there. Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang quickly found Yi Yu and the rest of them. Aunt! Jiang Qin, who was looking extremely pathetic, cried out when she saw Jiang Sun surging forward. Yi Yu followed closely behind Jiang Qin. While fighting against the ancient Yu clan soldiers, Jiang Sun said, "How are your injuries? Are there any other members from the Jiang family here?" They had not anticipated the attack at all, so had no idea how many members of the Jiang family were still alive. "It's just a few of us left. Please get us out of here," Jiang Qin pleaded. Jiang Sun's lips twisted. Even though she didn't like Jiang Qin and Yi Yu, they were still family after all. Jiang Sun broke their chains with one swing of her sword and let Jiang Qin and the rest out. "Brothers of different clans, let's go." Jiang Sun's gaze swept across the other youths in the cages. Without thinking much of it, he prepared to leave with Jiang Qin and Yi Yu. She dragged them along, one in each hand, and ran. Yi Sun could only follow behind them, panting heavily. But just as they grabbed Yi Yu and Jiang Qin and Yi Yu's eyes suddenly flashed fiercely as they attacked the defenseless Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang from behind. Before they could even react, all they saw was black and they collapsed. "Grandfather! Father!" The domain monarch was still dealing with the ancient Yu clan soldiers at the entrance when he suddenly heard two cries. He lifted his eyes only to see a group of ancient Yu clan soldiers dragging Jiang Qin and Yi Yu out. Even Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang, whom he had sent to rescue them, were being dragged out as well. The two of them seemed to have been knocked out and did not stir at all. The knives of the soldiers were on their necks. "Domain monarch, your loved ones are in our hands. I might let them go if you hand over your spirit of chaos fragment obediently." A warden from the ancient Yu clan walked out slowly. Both his hands were behind his back, and he was looking at the solemn domain monarch with arrogance. Seeing the four of them captured, the domain monarch's eyes narrowed and flashed coldly. His expression was extremely dark. He rarely had time for his family since he had always been obsessed with honing his martial arts. Now that the Jiang family was on the verge of extinction, he was going to protect the remaining members even if it cost his life. "The spirit of chaos fragment is with me. Let them go and I will become your hostage. I'll hand you the fragment once I know they are safe," the domain monarch said. "Do you think you are in a position to negotiate with us now?" The ancient Yu clan warden let out of a bark of contemptuous laughter, as though the domain monarch was nothing to him. Chapter 1948, Betrayal 1. Domain monarch, it's a different time now. With your current strength, what right do you have to negotiate with the ancient Yu clan? Even I can kill you easily. I'm only asking you to hand it over to save you some dignity. The domain monarch narrowed his eyes. He took out a small fragment from his chest and pinched it in his hand. The warden's eyes lit up as he saw the fragment. "Not a single fragment of the spirit of chaos can be missing. Isn't obtaining all the fragments the reason you've been wiping out all the ancient clans? I'm going to destroy it if you don't listen to me. Then you will never be able to fulfill your wishes in this lifetime," the domain monarch said coldly. The warden narrowed his eyes and gritted his teeth. "All right, I'll save you a bit of your dignity and let them go then." With that, Yi Yu and the rest were released on the spot. Yi Yu and Jiang Qin exchanged a look with the warden before replacing their expressions with worry and picking up the unconscious Jiang Sun and Jiang Lang. They rushed over to the domain monarch's side. "Domain monarch, you should hand the fragment over now," the warden said coldly. Seeing Yi Yu and the rest of them walk behind him, he breathed in silently and enveloped them in his power. "Go now." The domain monarch shouted fiercely as the ball of light surrounding them flew up into the sky. "You want to leave? It's not going to be that easy." The warden laughed coldly. As he said that, a figure flew out from behind him. The domain monarch didn't even have time to see what the figure looked like before a fierce attack came at him like thunder. He quickly retaliated but was still thrown back a few meters. A handsome youth stood in front of the domain monarch. "Domain monarch?" The youth laughed lightly. "You're from the Nanlin family?" The domain monarch looked strangely at the Nanlin family clothes the youth was wearing. The youth lifted his eyes slightly and ripped off the disguise he was in. What do you mean Nanlin family? The warden doesn't find this troublesome at all, does he? Why do we need such complicated antics to deal with trash like you? We should just kill you all. The domain monarch suddenly understood why he was in those clothes. All he wanted to do right now was to make sure Jiang Sun and the rest left safely. He raised his hand and threw the spirit of chaos fragment out. Eyes flashing, the youth leaped over to catch it. The domain monarch seized this opportunity to leave with the people in the ball of light. The youth immediately felt something off as he clutched the fragment with some strength. This fragment is fake. The warden's eyes turned cold. He let out a cold laugh as he looked at the fleeing domain monarch. Just as he thought he could get away with the people in the ball of light, Jiang Qin gritted her teeth, the hand in her sleeve hesitating for a while. But just as she was hesitating, Yu took advantage of the domain monarch's lack of attention and stabbed him in the back with a dagger. Ugh! In great pain, the domain monarch looked at his granddaughter in disbelief. A sudden pain ripped through his chest from the wound, disrupting his power, and they fell from the sky. Yu! The domain monarch's eyes widened at the unexpected attack by Yu. Chapter 1949. Betrayal, 2. He had planned everything perfectly. But the only thing he failed to account for was his very own granddaughter betraying him. Domain monarch, you didn't expect this, right? He who knows when to move with the times is a wise man. Your granddaughter and daughter have been smart enough to switch to the winning side. You are the only one who dared to use a fake fragment to try and fool us. The warden gave a cold laugh. The entire scene was witnessed by Yi Qingtang and the rest, who were still hiding. What's wrong with those two Jiang family women? How could they do this to their own people? Several ancient clan leaders widened their eyes in disbelief. They even suspected that their eyes and ears must be deceiving them. Doomed. I am afraid the domain monarch is doomed this time. The crowd shook their heads and lamented the betrayal of the domain monarch by his own family. They also felt regretful that the Jiang family failed to escape their demise in the end. The domain monarch had been engaged with his enemies and didn't know what happened within the canyon. But Yi Qingtang and her group saw everything from their high vantage point. Even those battle-worn ancient clan leaders never expected there to be two traitors within the Jiang family. Hidden within her sleeves, Yi Qingtang's fists were tightly clenched. She felt a desperate urge to tear Yu apart when she witnessed her sneak attack against Jiang Lang. How could Yu be so heartless as to attack her very own family members? Yu, you are really something. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. Taking out a golden mask from her space ring, she put it on. It was the mask left behind by the Holy Lord of Shadows. Ming Di. A vicious glint flashed across Ming Di's blood-red eyes when he heard Yi Qingtang's voice. The massacre was about to begin. A caustic smile appeared on the ancient Yu clan youth when he saw the injured domain monarch. I advise you not to move about. That blade is poisoned, and the more you struggle, the faster the venom will spread. If you continue being disobedient, I will have to handicap your arms and legs. See if you can still struggle then. The youth raised his hand and reached toward the domain monarch's arms. The domain monarch took a deep breath. He knew he was powerless to defend himself now and had resigned himself to death. But just as the domain monarch had given up all hope, a booming dragon's roar rang out. In the next second, a massive shadow fell over the crowd. A gigantic demon dragon was flying toward them, and a slender figure was riding upon that beast. It was a woman wearing a golden mask. Is that? The warden frowned at the sight of the demon dragon and woman. For a second there, he had no idea how to react. But the eyes of the domain monarch flashed when he saw the demon dragon. Temple of Shadows. Demon dragon Ming Di? So the one riding upon that dragon was... With a loud crash, Ming Di landed somewhere outside the canyon. The warden finally snapped out of his trance, suddenly realizing who that gold-masked woman on that dragon might be. The warden has seen that golden mask in a portrait before. It was an emperor-level artifact and belonged to the Holy Lord of Shadows. Why was the Holy Lord of Shadows here? Yi Qingtang stood upon Ming Di's back as she surveyed the people before her. A murderous glint surfaced in her eyes when she saw the pale-faced domain monarch, the unconscious Jiang Lang and the others. But she was well aware that now was not the time to face the ancient Yu clan head-on. Nevertheless, no matter what, she had to bring those people away with her today. Yi Qingtang had Ming Di pick up those people before turning to flee the scene. Chapter 1950, Betrayal, 3. Although Ming Di had completely defeated those first two ancient Yu clan youths, they were now in the enemy's territory and Yi Qingtang was not confident in winning. It was likely that the ancient Yu clan might have some hidden trump card. The ancient Yu clan warden was stunned. What was going on? Why did the Holy Lord suddenly arrive to rescue the Jiang family members? Don't let them flee. The warden roared. Although the elders had instructed them not to engage the Temple of Shadows for the moment, the Holy Lord had come all this way just to snatch their target. How could they endure such an insult? At the warden's command, the youth gave chase. Yo, that punk dares to chase after us? Ming Di noted the youth pursuing them. He immediately put Yi Qingtang and the others down before turning around to battle him. The domain monarch was astounded. He stared at Yi Qingtang, who was still wearing the golden mask. He did not remember any connections between the Jiang family and the Temple of Shadows. Why would the Holy Lord? But there was no time for the domain monarch to ask further questions. He gazed worriedly at Ming Di, who was getting ready to face their enemy. Ming Di landed right in front of the youth, blocking his way. You are just a stupid demon dragon. Get out of my way or I will skin you alive. The youth snorted impatiently. Narrowing its eyes, Ming Di swung its tail into that arrogant youth, turning him into a mass of pulverized flesh. Skin me alive? So scary, Ming Di grinned at the messy remains of the youth. Domain Monarch was dumbfounded by the entire scene. This Ming Di was indeed as powerful as the legends described. Before the Domain Monarch could fully comprehend it all, the hidden ancient clan members all rushed out. They were full of confidence after witnessing Ming Di's kill. The Domain Monarch stared at the sudden appearance of those ancient clan members, all of whom looked so familiar. When did this bunch of people ally themselves with the Temple of Shadows? The Holy Lord is great. It was right of you to teach that ancient Yu clan a lesson. The ancient clan folks happily praised Yi Qingtang's wonderful accomplishment. Yi Yu never expected there to be so many people hidden on the outside. All the hairs at the back of her neck stood up when she saw that massive demon dragon smash the ancient Yu clan youth to certain death. It must be pointed out that Yi Yu had personally witnessed just how powerful that youth was. He could wipe out an entire ancient clan all by himself. He had been turned into meat paste with just the swing of a tail? Yi Yu shuddered. Together, she and Jiang Qin hurried back to the ancient Yu clan camp. But Yi Qingtang immediately noticed their attempt to flee. Reaching out, she grabbed those two and hauled them back, tossing them by the feet of the Domain Monarch. However, no one had the time to think of how to deal with them now. The warden remained impassive as he watched that youth die. He just narrowed his eyes. The Temple of Shadows is indeed powerful. But since you guys insisted on coming to meet your deaths, don't blame us for being merciless. Right after the warden spoke, several youths appeared before him. Yi Qingtang scanned those youths and realized that all of them possessed an aura even stronger than those first three killed by Ming Di. As expected, the ancient Yu clan still possessed quite a number of such formidable youths. Ming Di, Yi Qingtang said. Understood. The battle-hungry blood in Ming Di's body started to churn and rage. It turned toward those youths and taunted, Oi, don't come one by one. All of you can attack me at the same time. Chapter 1951, Old Acquaintance, 1. Those youths immediately sprang forth the moment Ming Di uttered those words. In the blink of an eye, flashing beams of light and loud booms resonated through the air. The eyes of the Domain Monarch widened as he watched Ming Di take on several ancient Yu clan youths at the same time. He had heard rumors of how powerful the Temple of Shadows Ming Di was. But the dragon had vanished without a trace for so many years. He never expected that. Even under the united attack by those youths, Ming Di still had the clear upper hand. With just a swish of his massive dragon's tail, none of the youths could withstand the impact. Some managed to survive, but only barely with serious injuries. Others were instantly killed on impact, following in the footsteps of that earlier youth. The ancient Yu clan warden had been full of confidence but was now frowning as he witnessed Ming Di's slaughter. Although these youths were not the most powerful of their batch, they still possessed enough power to destroy an entire ancient clan on their own. He had thought with them attacking in a group, it should be no problem for the youths to handle that demon dragon. The Temple of Shadows Ming Di was really that powerful. He instinctively glanced at Yi Qingtang, who had remained by the sidelines the entire time. He narrowed his eyes. "You guys, go to the Holy Spirit Hall now." The warden commanded the sentries as he witnessed the humiliating defeat of those youths. He refused to believe that this Ming Di was totally undefeatable. The sight of Ming Di's great killing spree was a boon to those ancient clan members. They cheered happily as Ming Di helped them dish out some form of revenge. Yi Qingtang was the only one who remained impassive under her mask. She only continued to observe those youths carefully. It appeared that Ming Di was winning easily, but Yi Qingtang also realized that not all of the youths were the same. Most of the youths were on the same level as their dead predecessors. But a couple of them were able to stand up again after being swiped by Ming Di's tail. The abilities of those two youths were far above the rest. But just seconds later, Ming Di managed to defeat the remaining youths, who collapsed dead to the ground. Just as the ancient clan folks wanted to cheer and take this opportunity to save their own people, several figures dashed out from the canyon. Before the ancient clan people could see who they were, loud booms echoed through the air. 3 identical-looking youths had appeared in front of Ming Di. More have come to seek their deaths? Ming Di tilted his head and stared at those 3 youths. The youths didn't waste time talking to Ming Di. They just lunged forward. Ming Di swung his tail again, but those 3 youths managed to dodge it. They leaped away, completely unharmed. These 3 guys seemed to be even stronger than those before them? The eyes of the Nanlin clan leader widened in disbelief. The earlier ancient Yu clan youths were already powerful beyond comprehension. No one imagined that the clan had even more powerful fighters. The hearts of everyone thumped heavily with apprehension. Previously, Ming Di had been able to deal crushing defeats to the ancient Yu clan. But these new youths were much faster and more powerful than those before them. Faced with 3 of them on his own, it was not certain if Ming Di could still defeat them. Chapter 1952, Old Acquaintance, 2. Although he could still handle them, he no longer had an absolute advantage. The power held by the ancient Yu clan was indeed unfathomable. Still on the sidelines, Yi Qingtang observed Ming Di battling those 3 youths. They had perfect coordination, and although Ming Di was still more powerful than them, he could not destroy all of them in one go. Yi Qingtang couldn't help feeling somewhat worried. Meanwhile, the ancient Yu clan warden didn't look too good either. He had expected the first batch of youths to fail. After all, the disparity between Ming Di and them was too wide. But these 3 youths were considered among the top in their batch. And yet, they were unable to handle Ming Di. The warden's face turned grim, and he shot a discreet look at the sentry beside him. He uttered some commands in a low voice, and the sentry immediately turned and ran into the canyon. Inside the canyon, a white-haired elder was standing inside a pavilion. A row of spirit pearls was arranged before him, shimmering softly. Some of those spirit pearls were already cracked. But there were so many spirit pearls that barely anyone would notice those cracks. "Elder, the Temple of Shadows Ming Di is too powerful. The 3 brothers are unable to handle him either." The sentry hurried over with his report. The elder had his hands clasped behind his back. He maintained his neutral expression. "Useless garbage," the elder said mildly, all the while keeping his eyes fixed upon the spirit pearls. As the elder spoke, cracks suddenly appeared in 3 of the spirit pearls in the front row. The elder narrowed his eyes. Those 3 youths had been killed by Ming Di. The Temple of Shadows Ming Di has indeed lived up to his reputation. The elder gave a cold laugh. The power of that demon dragon, who had once fought alongside the Holy Lord of Shadows, was enough to dominate the entire mainland. Nevertheless, the sentry looked somewhat worried. The elder lifted his hand and pointed at the foremost spirit pearl. "There's no need to mess around with the Temple of Shadows any longer. We will send him." The sentry shuddered when he saw which spirit pearl the elder was pointing at. "But, that guy, Before the sentry could finish his sentence, the elder shot him a look. The sentry broke out in cold sweat and didn't dare to utter another word. He immediately turned and went to carry out his orders. Outside the canyon, Ming-Di gazed down at the three youths collapsed beneath his feet. But the arrogant light in his eyes had faded a little. Indeed, he had won, but it was a tough win. The powers of those three youths were exemplary, and they had perfect coordination and camaraderie. Even Ming-Di had found it somewhat challenging to defeat them. The ancient clan folks heaved a sigh of relief after witnessing the defeat of those three youths. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that there could be youths who were that powerful in this world. The amount of power possessed seemed beyond the bounds of the first domain. But just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, a horse carriage came rolling out of the canyon. The carriage appeared very dense and heavy. It was entirely black and bound all over with chains, which made clinking sounds the entire way. Everyone instantly went on high alert again at the sight of that horse carriage. Although the carriage was still quite some distance away, they could already feel a powerful aura radiating from it. Even from that distance, they were already finding it difficult to breathe from that oppressive aura. Chapter 1953, Old Acquaintance, 3. Even the eyes of the ancient Yu clan's warden widened in shock at the sight of that carriage. The elder had chosen to let them out? This is the intention of the elder? The warden looked at the sentry in front of the carriage. The guard nodded quietly. For a moment, the warden looked rather conflicted. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes at the sight of that horse carriage. Those three youths had already given Ming-Di a good challenge. Who knew what kind of horrific power the ancient Yu clan was unleashing now? Upon closer inspection, Yi Qingtang also noticed that the design of the carriage was rather strange. Although it looked like a horse carriage, it also looked like a mobile prison. The chains binding the carriage were carved with all sorts of strange-looking scriptures. It was almost as if they were trying to suppress something. The ancient Yu clan warden hesitated a moment longer before finally nodding his head. The carriage came to a stop at the entrance of the canyon, directly facing Ming-Di. Ming-Di narrowed its eyes at the carriage. It could already feel that the aura radiating from that carriage was completely different from those earlier youths. This aura was oppressive-versificatingly powerful. With a loud crash, the chains binding the horse carriage broke. The thick chains started to fall onto the floor, and a dense smog seeped out of the cracks in the carriage. The smog permeated the air, drawing up layers of dirt from the ground. It surged toward the crowd with tremendous impact. What the hell is in that horse carriage? As the smog engulfed them, one of the ancient clan leaders felt like his blood had nearly hardened from the oppressive aura. What's there to be afraid of? We have Ming-Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows on our side. We can handle any monster the ancient Yu clan sets upon us. Quite a number of them had the utmost faith in the Holy Lord's powers, even though it was blind faith. Yi Qingtang was speechless after hearing those words. Indeed, if she was the true Holy Lord of Shadows, there wasn't anything to be afraid of. But she wasn't. A paragon-level practitioner might be considered great in central mainland. But with little Yu Yun's spiritual abode, Yi Qingtang had no way of guessing just how powerful the ancient Yu clan had become. This encounter would be a direct way to test just how powerful the ancient Yu clan had grown. Clink. The final chain binding the carriage soon fell to the ground. Everyone was holding their breath in apprehension. They stared unwaveringly at the carriage for any signs of movement. The horse carriage remained completely still. The person inside didn't emit a single sound. Ming-Di narrowed his eyes dangerously. Faced with this powerful practitioner, his dragon scales had taken on a subtle blood-red sheen. Boom! Before anyone could see what had happened, a slim figure suddenly burst out of the carriage and charged ferociously toward Ming-Di. In the blink of an eye, Ming-Di and that black figure were already engaged in a great scuffle. Loud booms echoed through the air as both sides moved at lightning speed. No one at present could even see what was happening. Surrounding cliffs started to crack and shattered rocks flew everywhere. As the sides of the canyon kept absorbing wave after wave of impactful blows, countless pieces of shattered rocks tumbled all over. The earth beneath everyone's feet seemed about to rupture any time, to the point that long, jagged cracks had already appeared. Chapter 1954, Old Acquaintance 4. What's going on? What kind of monster is that? The ancient clan folks were shocked. They could still see what was going on in Ming Di's earlier fights. But for this one, they could not even catch a glimpse of Ming Di and that ancient Yu clan monster. They could only feel shockwaves surging toward them. Yi Qingtang had focused all her energy into her eyes, but was still unable to keep up with the speed of the fight. Just as the battle waged on, an earth-shattering boom sounded and two black figures flew straight up into the sky. Up in the air, a dazzling light burst out, blinding everyone. In the very next second, the two black figures parted, each standing on one side as they floated in the air. At this point, everyone finally managed to see the two figures more clearly. The massive Ming Di covered the sky, its huge wings spread across the air. But now there was a large wound on Ming Di's body N. The wound was not deep, but it was still a major blow to everyone below. What was going on? The ancient Yu clan monster had been able to injure Ming Di? Was this some kind of joke? Everyone immediately turned toward the black figure who managed to injure Ming Di. The crowd was stunned by the sight. Floating up in the air, a young child who looked to be only 5 or 6 years old was standing opposite Ming Di. The child was petite with an exceptionally exquisite little face. But those eyes looked like two emotionless pits, staring steadfastly at the aggressively ferocious Ming Di. That's just a kid? The ancient clan folks widened their eyes in disbelief. Those earlier youths had already been powerful beyond their imaginations. This figure, who was even more powerful than Ming Di, was just a little kid. Everyone was dazed. No one noticed that Yi Qingtang had given a violent tremble the moment the kid appeared. Luo Shui. Yi Qingtang widened her eyes in shock. The petite figure floating in midair was little Luo Shui, who had been born together with little Yu Yun in First Mainland back then. That year, the ancient Yu clan had gone on a killing spree across the First Mainland. Yi Qingtang had died fighting and failed to get little Yu Yun back. Little Luo Shui, who had been with little Yu Yun, had also been taken away by the ancient Yu clan. Yi Qingtang had come to Central Mainland to get little Yu Yun and little Luo Shui back, so that she could save all life on First Mainland. But she never dreamed that she would see little Luo Shui under such circumstances. Having been apart for so long, little Luo Shui no longer looked familiar to Yi Qingtang. It was still that same face, but little Luo Shui seemed to have grown up somewhat. The thing that felt the most unfamiliar were little Luo Shui's eyes. There were no traces of warmth or emotion inside them. It was like all emotion had been cut out of little Luo Shui. How could this be? Yi Qingtang frowned deeply as she gazed at the floating little Luo Shui. What did the ancient Yu clan do to little Luo Shui? How did little Luo Shui become like this? A surge of anger rose in Yi Qingtang's heart. She still remembered those two little fellows tagging alongside her all day and night when she was in First Mainland. But now, little Luo Shui had turned into this. Meanwhile, she had no idea where little Yu Yun was. The former Luo Shui Divine King. Chapter 1955. Old Acquaintance 5. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the murderous intent in her heart. Ancient Yu clan. Up in the air, Ming Di wore a grave expression. To those bystanders, it was just a short fight. But during that short period of time, Ming Di and little Luo Shui had exchanged over 100 moves. During that exchange, Ming Di could clearly feel the unbelievable power of that kid. It was way above that of those previous youths. Kid, you are indeed something. What's your name? Ming Di asked in a cold voice. Meanwhile, little Luo Shui was completely unresponsive. He continued to stare at Ming Di with empty eyes as if he was looking at his prey. When Yi Qingtang observed Ming Di's actions, her heart sank. Ming Di would never deign to speak to those he deemed weaker than himself. This was the first time Ming Di was trying to converse with his opponent. That meant Ming Di could not afford to underestimate little Luo Shui's powers. Yi Qingtang gazed over at the ancient Yu clan. She had no idea how many more monsters the ancient Yu clan had cultivated inside that deep canyon. Ming Di. Ming Di's eyes wavered the moment Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke. No one else noticed that a hint of wonder also flashed past little Luo Shui's eyes. But before that glimmer could turn into anything else, it was sucked into that emotionless dark pit. Let's go. Yi Qingtang suddenly gave the command to retreat. Ming-Di was taken aback. The ancient clan folks were likewise dumbstruck. What was going on? The Holy Lord of Shadows wanted to retreat? Before the rest of the people could start to comprehend Yi Qingtang's order, Ming-Di flew down and swept Yi Qingtang onto his back. Without any hesitation, he flew up into the sky. Trying to escape? The ancient Yu clan warden uttered coldly when he saw Yi Qingtang leaving. Ming-Di suddenly opened his jaws and spewed out a torrent of black flames across everything. This is not the end. Yi Qingtang was standing upon Ming-Di's back and staring at the unmoving little Luo Shui. Pain flashed across her eyes. At Yi Qingtang's command, Ming-Di flew away into the distance. At that, the ancient clan folks also hurried away while the 8 tribe leaders brought the Jiang family members along with them in accordance with Yi Qingtang's orders. The warden was full of frustration as he stared after the departing crowd. He wanted to order little Luo Shui to pursue them. But little Luo Shui ignored his command. Instead, he hovered there, unmoving in the sky. Enough! An old, frail voice suddenly rang out from behind. The warden immediately turned and saw the elder walking over. A large group of youths were tagging along behind the elder. Elder, it seems such a waste to let them leave now. Shouldn't we take this opportunity to kill them all? The warden asked. A smirk appeared on the elder's face. It's not the right time. He lifted his eyes and looked at little Luo Shui. Luo Shui's condition is still unstable. With his current powers, he would be on par with Ming-Di at best. And the true power behind the Temple of Shadows is the Holy Lord. We cannot be certain of victory if we engage them now. While little Luo Shui might be able to hold off Ming-Di, they would need a lot more than that to handle the Holy Lord of Shadows. They would bide their time. Chapter 1956, Pledging Allegiance. 1. Many ancient clans remained in hiding throughout the central mainland. There was no great hurry for them to go into battle with the Temple of Shadows at this point. Tell the sacred ground of reflection not to let the Temple of Shadows rest easy. After we finish off the remaining powers in central mainland, we will go and deal with the Temple of Shadows, the elder instructed. The warden hesitated a moment before nodding in compliance. Understood. I will immediately contact the sacred ground of reflection. They now belong to the ancient Yu clan and will naturally do their best for us. Otherwise, we have no reason to keep them around. The sacred ground of reflection managed to avoid destruction as they did not have any spirit of chaos fragments. But they were also very astute and knew it was in their best interests to submit to the ancient Yu clan. With a curt nod, the elder turned and left without another word. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang and her group left the ancient Yu clan's territory and soon arrived back at the Temple of Shadows. Most of the ancient clan folks could not understand why Yi Qingtang chose to suddenly retreat. Are you all fools? Didn't you see the ancient Yu clan leading a huge group of people over? If the Holy Lord had not wisely chosen to retreat, do you think you all would have escaped with your lives? Ming-Di snorted. The crowd was shocked. Having stood some distance away, they could not see what was happening within the canyon. Even the thought alone made them break out in cold sweat. The ancient Yu clan was probably leading a group of youths who were all as diabolically powerful as the earlier ones. There was no need for Ming-Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows to fear them, but the rest of ancient clan folks would likely all perish there. By then, Ming-Di would be held up by that little monster, while the youths could split up with one group to distract Yi Qingtang and the other group to destroy the rest of them. At this point, the crowd couldn't help feeling that Yi Qingtang was indeed wise and had helped save all their lives. Little did they know that Yi Qingtang was also trying to save her own life. Ming-Di was the only one of them able to fight back. With the dragon being kept busy by little Luo Shui, the rest of them would definitely have died by the time the main ancient Yu clan group arrived. Ming-Di, since you were able to see it, how many people did the ancient Yu clan have on their side? One of the ancient clan leaders asked. Too many to count. Several hundred at least. Several hundreds of those monsters. The ancient clan folks gasped. This is only one of the ancient Yu clan's strongholds. Who knows how many more people they have in other places, the demon tribe leader pointed out. His words were the final straw that broke the camel's back. Everyone instantly felt hopelessly deflated. One youth was enough to destroy multiple ancient clans. Let alone hundreds and thousands of them, destroying the entire mainland would be a breeze. At that moment, everyone fell into the depths of despondency. They could not comprehend just how powerful their opponent was. It was no wonder the ancient Yu clan behaved so arrogantly. Holy Lord, we have no choice but to rely on the Temple of Shadows now. Please protect us. One of the ancient clan leaders immediately fell to his knees before Yi Qingtang. Right in front of everyone, he took out his Spirit of Chaos fragment and offered it to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang, I know I am no match for the ancient Yu clan. Even if I were to hang on to this Spirit of Chaos fragment, it would just be a matter of time before the ancient Yu clan took it from me. Holy Lord, please protect us. I am willing to offer this fragment to you if you will protect my clan, the leader stated in a hoarse voice. Chapter 1957, Pledging Allegiance, 2. Up until now, the ancient clans all hadn't understood what kind of an opponent they were facing. But outside the ancient Yu clan valley today, they had witnessed so many powerful youths that made them feel like nothing in comparison. It was as if they were as insignificant as mere ants. They had turned up one after another, and there was no way they would be able to deal with that kind of power and numbers. As long as they retained the fragments, they would be a target of the ancient Yu clan. It had become a ticking time bomb. No matter how good it was, they had no choice but to use their lives to trade for it. It was not a surprise that the ancient clans all had the same thoughts. They understood that the difference between them and the ancient Yu clan was too great, and they were powerless to prevent them from taking the fragments of the Spirit of Chaos. Their only option was to hand it over. Many of the ancient clans here had a grudge against the ancient Yu clan. Their pride didn't allow them to just hand over the fragments like that. Not only they, who knew whether the ancient Yu clan would even spare them after they handed the fragments over obediently. They were mere bugs in the eyes of the ancient Yu clan right now. The only thing that could oppose the ancient Yu clan now was the Temple of Shadows. The Temple of Shadows had accepted their reliance from the start and had never asked for anything in return. The ancient clans saw this as kindness. Even though they rarely acted based on emotions, they knew that relying on the Temple of Shadows was far more dependable than relying on the ancient Yu clan. Furthermore, they understood how cruel and violent the ancient Yu clan could be. Yi Qingtang was surprised as she hadn't expected the clan leaders to hand over the fragments so willingly. The ancient Yu clan's goal is to obtain the Spirit of Chaos fragments in your hands. They can guarantee your safety if you hand over the fragments to them, Yi Qingtang said. The clan leader suddenly spoke up. Holy Lord, do you think that I'm handing the fragment over to save the lives of my clan? Why else would you? Yi Qingtang asked. The clan leader smiled bitterly and replied, Holy Lord, you're right. My clan has already been forced into such a position, and there's no way we can keep holding on to this fragment, or we will die by the ancient Yu clan's hands. Like the Holy Lord said, handing over the fragment to the ancient Yu clan is an option, but I would much rather hand the fragment over to the Holy Lord rather than the ancient Yu clan. Why? Yi Qingtang repeated. The ancient Yu clan had always been ruthless and only respected the strong. Now that they are this strong, my clan will only be humiliated and trampled all over by them, the clan elder said bitterly. The clan elder's words embarrassed many of the other ancient clans. It was true. They might be able to preserve their lives if they surrendered to the ancient Yu clan. But with the ancient Yu clan's current and history, who knew how low the other ancient clans would have to sink? They would be humiliated worse than slaves or animals. After all, these ancient clans had been around for tens of thousands of years. Even though they knew their current situation, they still could not give up the last of their dignity. They would rather die than be treated like bugs to be toyed around with under the mercy of the ancient Yu clan. Chapter 1958, Pledging Allegiance, 3. As Yi Qingtang scanned the expressions on the ancient clan people's faces, it wasn't hard to make a guess. They weren't sure if their lives would be spared if they handed the fragments over to the ancient Yu clan, and even if they were spared, they would have to live as the ancient Yu clan's slaves for the rest of their lives. How were they supposed to face their ancestors and live up to the name of an ancient clan? This was their bottom line. In truth, the intentions of the ancient Yu clan was pretty obvious. They had sent the youths out secretly to kill off the ancient clans, firstly to obtain the spirit of chaos fragments and secondly to hone their skills. After all, with their current strength, they could have just shown their power and gotten the ancient clans to hand over what they wanted. There was no need to send those youths out to massacre the ancient clans. It was obvious that the other ancient clans meant nothing to the ancient Yu clan. They wanted both the fragments and their lives. Holy Lord, my clan is willing to hand the spirit of chaos fragments over to the Holy Lord as well. A person from another clan stepped forwards and declared. It was useless for them to hold onto the fragments as it would only bring further disaster upon themselves. The only force that could oppose the ancient Yu clan now was the Temple of Shadows. Rather than surrender, it would be better for them to side with the Temple of Shadows and get themselves on the Holy Lord's good side. These sly old foxes had already calculated everything. Yi Qingtang had never expected things to blow up like this. After a short while, the ancient clans had all handed the fragments over to Yi Qingtang. There were 20 to 30 people in the Temple of Shadows, and almost like clockwork, all of them handed their fragments over to Yi Qingtang. She suddenly felt like she was holding a lot more of the fragments than the ancient Yu clan needed and was left at a loss for words. There was nothing she could do now. So many ancient clans were already pledging their allegiance before she had even thought of a plan to deal with the ancient Yu clan. With so many of them pleading with her so sincerely, she doubted that she could wriggle out of it easily now. Besides, after seeing little Luo Shui, she felt an even greater sense of urgency. She needed to retrieve the hearts of little Yu Yun and little Luo Shui. In the end, Yi Qingtang took all of the proffered fragments. She was going to need more strength if she were to deal with the ancient Yu clan. Once she had reassured the ancient clans, Yi Qingtang turned around to look at the Jiang family members she had saved. The domain monarch had suffered heavy wounds. Even though he had escaped with his life, he seemed to have aged a lot and his wizened face was filled with wrinkles. Jiang Lang and Jiang Sun's wounds were light and they were already awake. They stood at the domain monarch's bedside, looking at the worried domain monarch with dark expressions. Jiang Sun was crying silently as Yi Qingtang pushed open the door in her mask. Seeing Yi Qingtang enter, Jiang Sun and Jiang Sun stood up and looked at the Holy Lord of Shadows, whose power they did not know. "Greetings, Holy Lord. I will never forget your kindness." Jiang Lang looked at Yi Qingtang and exclaimed gratefully. Even though he had been unconscious, he had learned everything from the domain monarch when he woke up. If not for the Holy Lord of Shadows, they would have died in the hands of the ancient Yu clan. It was only when Yi Qingtang looked at the unharmed Jiang Lang that a weight lifted off her shoulders. She silently heaved a sigh of relief. A warm smile flashed past her eyes before she regained the cool composure of the Holy Lord of Shadows. Chapter 1959, Yu 1. Thank you, Holy Lord. The domain monarch stood up weakly and stretched his hand out to thank Yi Qingtang. The Jiang family was caught up in the destruction instigated by the ancient Yu clan. Do you have any idea what happened? Yi Qingtang looked at the domain monarch who had aged rapidly, a bitter taste in her throat. Even though she hadn't been particularly close to the domain monarch, she knew that he was a just person and respected him for it. The domain monarch shook his head. Everything happened so suddenly. I had no chance to prepare myself. Yi Qingtang had saved the domain monarch's life and he had no intention to keep anything from her. He quickly told her about the massacre that had occurred in the Jiang family. I did feel it was strange how the person managed to kill so many people without touching our family's array. It turns out that there were a few traitors, Jiang Lang said with a cold laugh. The domain monarch frowned slightly, his expression bitter. He had lived for so long yet never expected to be betrayed by his own daughter and granddaughter. To think that it was his own flesh and blood who had caused such destruction of his family clan. I always knew that there was something not quite right with the little brat Yiyu. If we had known earlier, we wouldn't have brought her back. Jiang Sun had never had a good impression of Yiyu. She wanted nothing more than to rip her apart alive now that she knew what she had done to the domain monarch. Had the Jiang family ever treated her badly? Why had she been so vicious? I'm not sure if there is anyone else alive in the Jiang family. If there is, I will send people over to bring them here, Yi Qingtang said. She was wondering if Mo was still alive. There are thanks to Tang Tang's elder brother. If he hadn't taken us in, there was no way we could have escaped from the ancient Yu clan's pursuit, Jiang Lang said. Yi Qingtang froze. Her brother? North Star Demon Lord? When the Jiang family had been attacked, the domain monarch had slaughtered many with Jiang Lang but had suffered heavy wounds. He had no choice but to hide. It was mere coincidence that they had met Yi Qingtang's elder brother. The North Star Demon Lord had known that they were Yi Qingtang's family, which was why he had offered a helping hand. He had hidden them in his sphere of influence. It was because of this that they hadn't returned to the other secret areas of the Jiang family residence, therefore escaping the massacre brought on by Jiang Qin's betrayal. Jiang Lang quickly told Yi Qingtang where the other people were hiding and thanked her profusely again. Just as she prepared to leave, Jiang Lang suddenly spoke up. Holy Lord! Yi Qingtang froze. I have a presumptuous request. Jiang Lang looked a little embarrassed. Please speak, Yi Qingtang told him. After the Jiang family met with this massacre, I was unable to leave and my daughter was in the Taiyuan Valley. I have no idea if she is safe, so if the Holy Lord has any information, please let me know. Jiang Lang was worried about his daughter, and spoke up even though he knew his request might have come off as rude. Yi Qingtang was stunned for a moment before she lowered her eyes slowly. There was no one left alive on Taiyuan Valley, she said slowly. Jiang Lang froze. Someone has already been there. Everyone is dead. Yi Qingtang couldn't bear to look at Jiang Lang's eyes. She could no longer be their daughter again. She could only give up on the warmth and affection she once had. Rather than let Jiang Lang and Moe keep hoping, she would tell them that she was dead. The words made Jiang Lang reel back in shock, as if he had been punched in the gut. Some moments later, he steadied himself and said softly, Thank you, Holy Lord. Chapter 1960, You, too. The sorrowful expression on Jiang Lang's face matched the broken feeling in Jiang Sun's heart broke as she held down the grief that threatened to swallow her whole. Holy Lord, what about Yi Yu and Jiang Qin? Jiang Sun's mind wandered over to them as she thought of Yi Yu and Jiang Qin. At this point, she wanted nothing more than to kill them. Yi Qingtang said, They've already joined the ancient Yu clan and definitely know more than we do. Jiang Sun nodded. But don't worry, Holy Lord. They are no longer part of the Jiang family. The Holy Lord can do with them as she sees fit. Giving a slight nod, Yi Qingtang left without saying anything more. She arranged for someone to welcome the Jiang family and the rest and walked alone towards the prison of the Temple of Shadows. Cold light shone faintly through the darkness of the prison as the shadows shifted under the flickering light. Before even stepping into the prison, Yi Qingtang heard the pained wails of a woman. Yi Qingtang found the voice extremely familiar. It was Jiang Qin. Continuing to proceed forward, she walked down into the prison and saw Lady Ghost standing with a whip in her hand. Her beautiful face was splattered with droplets of blood, which made for a morbid, yet ethereal sight. A pathetic figure was strung up and hung in the air by her shoulder blades as fresh blood pooled at her feet. Holy Lord! Lady Ghost bowed as she saw Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang looked at Jiang Qin being hung in the air, her skin and flesh torn as streams of blood dripped onto the ground. There was no sympathy in her eyes. What have you found out? Yi Qingtang asked. She doesn't know much, more or less the same as what we have already investigated. But, Lady Ghost paused before continuing, she knows some forces which have already joined the side of the ancient Yu clan. One of them is the Sacred Ground of Reflection. The Sacred Ground of Reflection? To be honest, Yi Qingtang had almost forgotten about them already. Lady Ghost's questioning was messy and she was going to report back to Yi Qingtang after gathering everything. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. Just as she was about to walk away, a cry of plea rang out. Holy Lord, I was forced. Everything was Jiang Qin's idea. Another familiar female voice rang out from the side of the prison. Turning around slowly, Yi Qingtang saw Yi Yu chained in a metal cage. Yi Yu was nothing like her previous beautiful self now. The once proud woman had now been reduced to a prisoner covered in scars. It was obvious that Lady Ghost had not spared her at all. Yi Yu's eye flashed as she saw the Holy Lord of Shadows approach her in a golden mask. Holy Lord, Yi Yu said in a clear voice as she stood up, shifting the chains behind her. Yi Qingtang looked at the pathetic Yi Yu with a cold expression. Holy Lord, you won't be able to get any clues from Jiang Qin even if you punish her so cruelly. She may have joined the ancient Yu clan but had no ability to truly work with them. She knows nothing, Yi Yu said. Oh really? Yi Qingtang said as she raised an eyebrow slightly and looked at the proud Yi Yu. So who does? She asked, her expression unchanging. Yi Yu smiled slightly and answered, me. You. Yi Qingtang said as she looked at her. That's right. I'm the one who has been contacting the ancient Yu clan all this time, and I was the one who helped them attack the Jiang family. Even the plan to lure the domain monarch out this time was planned entirely by me. Yi Yu confessed smugly without holding anything back. Lady Ghost's brows furrowed slightly. Chapter 1961, Yi Yu, 3. You're really brave, aren't you? Lady Ghost said with a cold scoff. Yi Yu looked at Lady Ghost, then bowed slightly to Yi Qingtang and said, Holy Lord of Shadows, I have heard great things about your strength. Surely you know that a wise person submits themselves to their circumstances. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang did not utter a word. Yi Yu continued, the ancient Yu clan is extremely powerful and the Jiang family shouldn't have made an enemy out of it. With my strength, I would have died before I could do anything. Only the living have any say in what they do. You're not afraid that I'll hand you over to the Jiang family? Yi Qingtang suddenly asked. Yi Yu laughed lightly and said, Holy Lord, you are extremely powerful. The ancient Yu clan is extremely strong now and wants to eliminate all the other ancient clans on the central mainland, which makes them your enemy. Holy Lord, you may have held regard for the Jiang family in the past, but they're nothing now. Why would you kill off someone with information on the ancient Yu clan just for a desolate clan? You're pledging your allegiance to me? That's right. Yi Yu spoke frankly without hiding her intentions. She had known ever since the day she had betrayed the Jiang family that it was no longer her home. She had thought that she could settle down in the ancient Yu clan but had unexpectedly landed in the hands of the Temple of Shadows. But this wasn't an issue at all for Yi Yu. My understanding of the ancient Yu clan is far greater than yours or any of the other ancient clans. If you decide to spare me, I promise to be useful. Furthermore, I am no match for you and you can kill me in the future if you ever have doubts about your decision, Yi Yu said. Yi Qingtang looked at Yi Yu without speaking. After a moment, she raised her hand, signaling for Lady Ghost to retreat. Lady Ghost shut the gates of the prison as she left, thinking that Yi Qingtang was going to accept Yi Yu's conditions. From her point of view, the bad blood between Yi Yu and the Jiang family had nothing to do with the Temple of Shadows. Yi Yu was an intelligent person and it would be useful if they could use her well. Yi Yu couldn't help but smile as Lady Ghost left. She knew that she had played her cards well and would be able to keep her life. So what if she had betrayed the Jiang family? The Jiang family was long gone. What did she have to fear? Yi Yu had seen the powerful battle between the Temple of Shadows and the ancient Yu clan. Even though she didn't believe that the Temple of Shadows could win against the ancient Yu clan, it wasn't something she was worried about now. As long as she remained alive, she would find other ways to return to the ancient Yu clan. You said that the plan to lure the domain monarch was yours? Yi Qingtang asked in a level voice. Yi Yu nodded and said, yes. She looked up at Jiang Qin who was hung up in the air and smiled in disdain. Jiang Qin wanted to join the ancient Yu clan but was weak. She had no way of finding the domain monarch for them and naturally lost her value. I won't be waiting for my death like her. HM? So you're saying that you're confident of your value to me? Yi Qingtang spoke calmly. Holy Lord, do you know why the ancient Yu clan sent people to wipe out the ancient clans at the start and didn't reveal their identity at first? Yi Yu knew that she had to give them enough reasons to keep her alive. Chapter 1962, So Filthy, 1. You know the reason? Yi Qingtang asked. Of course. Yi Yu smiled and continued, the ancient Yu clan isn't this powerful for no reason. To prove her worth, Yi Yu told her how the ancient Yu clan had used the other ancient clans to test the power of those young men. The truth was basically what Yi Qingtang had surmised. Yi Yu felt joy in her heart as she studied Yi Qingtang's reaction. If the Holy Lord gives me a chance, I promise to be of use to you. Yi Qingtang looked at Yi Yu and spoke lightly. Alright, I'll give you a chance. Yi Yu's heart leaped with joy. Yi Qingtang continued, but you have to show your sincerity first to prove your loyalty. Originally Yi Yu wanted to reveal more information about the ancient Yu clan to prove her sincerity, but before she could speak, Yi Qingtang raised a hand to interrupt. What I want is very simple. Yi Qingtang's eyes looked indifferently at Yi Yu from behind the mask. I want you to dig your spirit root out. What? Yi Yu was startled. Dig out her spirit root? What did that mean? What, you are unwilling? Yi Qingtang spoke coldly. The words of the Holy Lord left Yi Yu in utter shock. She lowered her eyes as internal turmoil overtook her. When she was in the first mainland, she had thought that the spirit root was everything, that it symbolized one's power. It was only after she had come to the central mainland that she realized that the spirit root wasn't the most important thing about power. She had seen so many people with ordinary spirit roots possess insane amounts of strength. In this mainland with a greater martial culture, the spirit root was not that important. Even now she still had her doubts. After all, she had spent a lot of effort getting this spirit root, and now she couldn't help but sigh internally as she looked at the Holy Lord of Shadows in front of her. With the Holy Lord of Shadows' power, she could easily crush her. She understood clearly that in front of such a powerful individual, her power meant nothing. After taking a deep breath, Yi Yu finally decided that gaining the Holy Lord of Shadows' trust was more important. She knew how strong she was and had heard of how frightening her powers were. As long as she had the Holy Lord of Shadows' trust, she had faith that she could one day gain more strength and power from the Holy Lord. This was what she was actually aiming for. Alright, as long as it makes the Holy Lord happy. Yi Yu gritted her teeth, lifted her hand, and pierced it straight through her stomach. The pain of stabbing her stomach made her break out in a cold sweat, and Yi Yu knelt onto the floor with a thud. She had once used the very same hands to rip open Yi Qingtang's stomach and dig out the spirit root she had been dreaming about. And now she was ripping open her own stomach to take out the spirit root that didn't belong to her in the first place. Fresh blood flowed from Yi Yu's wound, splashing onto the floor. The murky prison filled with the sickly stench of blood. Yi Yu slowly dug out a small spirit root. She held the spirit root in her blood-stained hands and presented it to Yi Qingtang. The spirit root was soaked in Yi Yu's blood and was glowing brightly. So filthy! Yi Qingtang looked coldly at the spirit root presented to her. Before Yi Yu could react, she reached out and crushed it. Chapter 1963. So filthy, too? Yi Yu's body gave an involuntary shudder the moment her spirit root broke. She quickly swallowed several elixirs and used her spirit energy to heal her wounds. As her power dropped drastically at the loss of her spirit root, she suddenly felt like she had been plunged into icy waters. Why had the Holy Lord of Shadows said, "So filthy"? Holy Lord, I did as you instructed," Yi Yu panted. She wanted to see if the Holy Lord of Shadows was pleased with her sincerity. But as Yi Yu looked up, all she could see were those icy cold eyes staring out of that mask. She couldn't help shuddering from the iciness in those eyes. A major sense of unease rose in Yi Yu's heart. Yi Qingtang showed no emotion at all as she gazed down at the pale-faced Yi Yu, who was now collapsed on the floor. She suddenly spoke. Lady Ghost. Lady Ghost, who had been standing guard outside the prison, immediately came to Yi Qingtang's side. Lift her up, Yi Qingtang ordered. Without a single word, Lady Ghost went forward and lifted Yi Yu. Heaving a sigh, Yi Yu was relieved. At least she was seeing the fruition of her scheming. But just as a sliver of joy rose in Yi Yu's eyes, a cold voice plunged her right back into her pit of despair. Lady Ghost. Yes. Dig out everything she knows. Use any method necessary. Yi Qingtang's chilly words sent Yi Yu straight down into the abyss. Yi Yu was thunderstruck. She could hardly believe that the Holy Lord of Shadows, who had been talking to her earlier, could change so quickly and pass down such a harsh sentence on her. How could this be? Holy Lord! Yi Yu spluttered in disbelief as she reached out toward Yi Qingtang. But Lady Ghost pulled her back, not giving her any chance to get close to Yi Qingtang. Holy Lord, what does this mean? That's not what we agreed upon earlier. Oh? What did we agree on? Yi Qingtang stared coldly at the frantic Yi Yu. For the first time, signs of alarm were appearing on Yi Yu's scheming face. Yi Yu was stunned. She was unable to see through that mask to see Yi Qingtang's expression, and a huge wave of panic engulfed her heart. Without giving her another glance, Yi Qingtang turned and left. Like a madwoman desperately trying to claw back her final hope at life, Yi Yu wailed and harangued Yi Qingtang's betrayal and deceit. But Lady Ghost gave her a vicious slap across the face. Without any hesitation, Lady Ghost took 2 metal hooks and pierced them into Yi Yu's shoulder blades. Yi Yu's screams echoed throughout the entire prison. Like Jiang Qin, Yi Yu was hung up in midair and fresh blood trickled down from her wound. Her earlier wound on her abdomen had yet to completely recover and was split open again. "Alright, tell me everything you know now. Be a good girl and tell me. I am not as benevolent as the Holy Lord." Lady Ghost grinned at Yi Yu, who was in utter agony. It was like looking at a vomit-inducing stinking worm. Absolutely disgusting. This girl was a despicable piece of garbage. How could she even dare to think of making a deal with the Holy Lord? Was she worthy? Yi Qingtang left the prison, her ears echoing with the sounds of Yi Yu's shrieks. When she lowered her eyes, those red lips beneath the mask slowly curled up. Chapter 1964. So filthy. 3D. The rest of your days here will be long. You can stay here in this prison to enjoy Lady Ghost's hospitality. One shouldn't be fooled by Lady Ghost's coquettish look. She was the top interrogator and torturer in the Temple of Shadows. No one had ever been able to keep any secrets the moment they ended up in Lady Ghost's hands. Before half an hour had passed, Lady Ghost already drew out everything that Yi Yu knew. Yi Yu was indeed more familiar with the ancient Yu clan than Jiang Qin. As much as she hated her, Yi Qingtang had to admire Yi Yu's capabilities. No matter where Yi Yu ended up, she had the ability to adapt and rise with the times. Whether it was in the Yi family, the sect, or the Jiang family, it was all the same. Even inside the ancient Yu clan, she had been able to gain a steady foothold. Yi Qingtang had no idea how she managed to do it. She hadn't immediately killed Yi Yu as she wanted to get information from her. But she had gotten all that she wanted. The ancient Yu clan had groomed a lot of youths, and each was more terrifying than the last. The younger they were, the more formidable they would be. As far as Yi Yu knew, the most powerful monster that the ancient Yu clan had was little Luo Shui. Apart from the ancient clans who had been eradicated, quite a number of other powers had secretly promised their allegiance to the ancient Yu clan. One of those powers was the sacred ground of reflection and the central dynasty. In addition, Yi Qingtang also saw a familiar name amongst the list of powers who had gone over to the ancient Yu clan side. The Luo family. Yi Qingtang recognized this Luo family as it was the riskiest test Ming Wang had given her. However, Yi Qingtang thought that after the banquet that night, the Luo family had already disappeared from the mainland. She never imagined that the family was still around and that they had pledged allegiance to the ancient Yu clan. It must be said that Yi Yu did know a lot of things. After looking over everything, Yi Qingtang went to the prison again. By that time, Lady Ghost and the rest of the undead clan had already left. But the thick scent of blood lingering behind revealed the horrifying things that had happened earlier. Yi Qingtang walked slowly into the cell. Jiang Qin and Yi Yu had already been let down from their hooks. Jiang Qin looked as if she had a layer of skin scraped off. She was just a pile of blood and flesh huddling in a corner of the cell. Her breath was extremely weak. As for Yi Qingtang looked at Yi Yu, who was curled up in a corner and bleeding all over. She glanced at the perfect piece of human skin crumpled up beside Yi Yu. Lady Ghost had carved off Yi Yu's skin in one continuous piece. Yi was now like a maggot picked up from a pool of blood, squirming and twitching. Hearing footsteps, Yi Yu lifted her head. That bloodied mess of a face looked exceptionally malevolent. Those bloodshot eyes stared straight at Yi Qingtang. Intense hatred filled her heart. Paying no heed to the terrible pain, Yi Yu pounced toward the side of the cage. She gripped the metal bars with her bloodied hands as she glared at the Holy Lord of Shadows who had betrayed her. "Do you hate me?" Yi Qingtang stared down imperiously at Yi Yu. "Ah!" Yu shrieked in rage. She opened her jaws wide, revealing her tongue, which had been cut in half. After gathering all the necessary information, Lady Ghost had cruelly cut off Yi Yu's tongue. Very good. Yi Qingtang gazed at the hate-filled Yi Yu. I am very pleased with your level of hatred. Only a high enough level of pain would be enough to make you hate me so much. Chapter 1965. So filthy. 4. Yi Yu leveled a fierce glare toward Yi Qingtang, her expression like that of a demon that had just climbed out of hell. Yi Yu, you're extremely smart, so smart that you've been playing everyone in your palms. But you're selfish as well and are willing to use even your own blood relatives if it means any benefit for you, Yi Qingtang said slowly. Even the great elder himself couldn't predict that the granddaughter he had brought up personally would turn a blind eye to his death. Yi Qingtang's words made Yi Yu freeze. Great elder. It had been a long time since she had heard that. This stirred up some memories in Yi Yu's mind. She fixed her gaze on Yi Qingtang's cold eyes. Suddenly Yi Yu seemed to have discovered something. She let out a shriek as her glare intensified. She reached out madly, wanting to take off Yi Qingtang's mask. Yi Qingtang looked calmly at the savage Yi Yu. Then she slowly took off the golden mask in front of the downtrodden form collapsed on the ground. Her beautiful face was revealed to Yi Yu. Yi Yu seemed like she had seen a ghost. A twisted wail squeezed itself out of her throat. Ah! Arg! She shrieked as she pointed at Yi Qingtang's face. Surprised, Yi Qingtang looked at the mask in her hand and back at Yi Yu. You managed to calculate everything so carefully but failed to account for the fact that your life would be in the hands of me, whom you stole the spirit root from. Yi Yu, how do you like this little surprise? Ah! Yi Yu wailed as her eyes darted towards the door, as though she wanted to attract the attention of the undead clan and reveal Yi Qingtang's true identity. But she had already lost her tongue and couldn't form proper words. Don't bother wasting your strength. I'm the Holy Lord of Shadows and I've ordered them to stay away. No one will come. Yi Qingtang smiled as she looked at the pathetic Yi Yu. She had thought that she hated Yi Yu with all her being. All the suffering and even her horrible death during the 300 years of her previous life had all been caused by Yi Yu, who had forced her into a corner. She should hate Yi Yu with all her might. But for some reason, she felt nothing as she looked at Yi Yu's pitiful state. Having experienced so many different things this life, Yi Yu was no longer the only obsession in her heart. That year, you personally dug out the spirit root from me and now, you've dug it out from yourself, Yi Qingtang said lightly. Yi Yu looked at Yi Qingtang and finally understood what she meant by, so filthy. The spirit root which she had cultivated for so many years in her own body was now stained with blood and looked filthy to her. Yi Qingtang had no intention of taking back the spirit root. As Yi Yu looked at Yi Qingtang, who was surrounded by an aura of power, she was left astounded. She had never expected her to be pretending to be the Holy Lord of Shadows. After all, when she had first seen the Holy Lord of Shadows, she had felt a power far above hers. A completely oppressive power. Never would she have even dreamed that the Yi Qingtang whom she had stolen her spirit root from would ever become this frightening and possessed power that was so far beyond her reach. She had tried her best but was now going to meet her demise in the hands of one she had once not even bothered sparing a glance for. Chapter 1966, Guests from All Places, 1. Yi Yu fell on the ground dejectedly. She seemed like she had lost all hope. Scraping at some blood with her fingertips, she started writing on the ground. You hate me and everything you did was to seek revenge from me. When Yi Qingtang saw those words, she smiled. You're wrong, Yi. I don't hate you. You don't deserve my hatred. I want you to die because you betrayed the Jiang family, Yi Qingtang said. She wasn't lying. She might have hated Yi Yu when she was in the first mainland back then. However, after going through the catastrophic experiences in the first mainland, her hatred towards Yi Yu had diminished. Yi Yu was like a tiny stone that had been cast aside by her. Even if she was reminded of Yi Yu sometimes, she would no longer be triggered. Yi Qingtang's words left Yi Yu completely flabbergasted. In Yi Yu's mind, she thought Yi Qingtang hated her to the point that she would do anything just to kill her, even posing as the Holy Lord of Shadows. But it turned out, she had such a small existence in Yi Qingtang's life. So small, she wasn't worth a mention. Yi Yu shivered as she looked at Yi Qingtang. They belonged to different worlds. Yi Yu felt like a joke in front of Yi Qingtang. They were of different levels long ago. It felt even more awful for Yi Yu, even worse than if Yi Qingtang really did scheme against her and try to kill her. Yi Yu had never bothered with Yi Qingtang. She didn't even think of Yi Qingtang as a worthy opponent. But now, she realized that she had become the worthless one. Yi Qingtang looked at the stunned Yi Yu. She wasn't interested to know what Yi Yu was thinking. After putting on her mask, she stretched her arm out to grab Yi Yu's head. I didn't want to do this personally, since this is too filthy. But you must return whatever you owe to the Jiang family. Yi Qingtang was cold and unfeeling as she looked at Yi Yu. Yi Yu's eyes widened, seemingly begging her younger sister, whom she had never cared about, to let her off. But before Yi Yu could make any sound, Yi Qingtang crushed Yi Yu's head. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. The seconds passed before Yi Qingtang slowly let go, watching Yi Yu slowly collapse to the ground. She didn't feel a thing, no sadness, no happiness. Then she lifted her eyes to look at Jiang Qin, who was barely breathing. A black flame lit up, burning Yi Yu and Jiang Qin into ashes. Yi Yu would no longer exist in this world. 2 piles of ashes were the only remains left on the ground. Yi Qingtang glanced at them briefly before she walked out without any expression on her face. Just as Yi Qingtang stepped out of the prison, she received news that a few groups of men had come to the Temple of Shadows to seek protection. The ancient Yu clan had been expanding their influence recently. Quite a number of groups had joined their side, and in return, the ancient Yu clan provided them with support. But that support provided had completely disrupted the dynamics of the central mainland. Those who received support from the ancient Yu clans started beating their competitors down. The central dynasty also started going overboard, attempting to consolidate power and take over other dynasties. But that was not all. Those who came to seek protection from the Temple of Shadows were forced to escape because of these groups of people who stood on the ancient Yu clan's side. They simply had nowhere else to go, and when they heard that the Temple of Shadows was taking in clans, they quickly rushed over. Chapter 1967. Guests from all places. 2. Yi Qingtang was familiar with some of those who came for their protection. For example, Eternal Dynasty, the dynasty that was oppressed by the Central Dynasty, almost to the point of being wiped out. When Yi Qingtang heard about the Eternal Dynasty, her brows furrowed. Back when she communicated with Ling Yan via the voice transmission stone the other time, Ling Yan had broken off abruptly. Yi Qingtang didn't know what had happened, but now that she thought about it, the Central Dynasty was probably behind it. Yi Qingtang didn't do anything more, she only headed for the hall. In the hall, the groups of leaders gathered, awaiting her arrival. Adorning a gold mask, Yi Qingtang entered the hall. When the leaders saw her, they quickly knelt on the ground, showing profound respect. Yi Qingtang sighed as she looked at them. In her past life, she hadn't even been to the central mainland before, but now. Greetings, Holy Lord. They gave her a full bow. Yi Qingtang spotted a familiar figure among them. Ling Yan. Yi Qingtang hadn't seen much of Ling Yan ever since the Eternal Dynasty. Now that she saw him, she realized that he hadn't changed much at all. He still appeared gentle with a smile on his face. Right when Yi Qingtang was about to look away, Ling Yan seemed to have noticed her. When he lifted his eyes, their eyes met and the smile on his face widened. Yi Qingtang quickly averted her eyes to distract herself. But just as she did that, she noticed a few familiar figures. Among the crowd, an elder knelt on the ground. The elder was dressed in a simple outfit, with a dignified countenance. Though he exuded an overbearing aura, he still appeared welcoming. It was the president of the Sacred Martial Academy. The moment she saw the president of the Sacred Martial Academy, everything from her past life flooded into her mind. In her past life, news of the heart of the heavenly Tao being inside her body was leaked. Everyone only knew that it was the heart of the demon god. When she was still in the Sacred Martial Academy, though the cultivation was tough, she couldn't deny that she felt warmth during her time there. But she hadn't expected that after the news of the heart of the heavenly Tao was leaked, the president of the Sacred Martial Academy, whom she once respected, colluded with the Central Dynasty. They worked together and did everything they could to beat her down. The North Star Demon Lord even died while trying to save her. The president of the Sacred Martial Academy, the one she once held so much respect for. She used to trust her seniors so much. Yi Qingtang got herself together, slightly narrowing her eyes. She thought that the Central Dynasty was on the ancient Yu clan's side and that naturally meant that the Sacred Martial Academy would also join their side. However, here they were today. Lifting her gaze, Yi Qingtang scanned the hall. Other than Ling Yan and the president of the Sacred Martial Academy, she spotted a few other familiar figures. Yin Yang Child? It was that little rascal she met in the mystic realm previously. She didn't expect him to be here too. But this time, Yin Yang Child had a sinister look on his face. Yi Qingtang learned from Xue Fu that the enemy of Yin Yang Child's father also joined the ancient Yu clan's side, and leveraging on the ancient Yu clan's power, they killed Yin Yang Child's father. It was lucky enough that Yin Yang Child was able to avoid them, but he had nowhere else to go and could only come for the Temple of Shadow's protection. Yi Qingtang instantly understood everything. After looking around, she whispered something in Xue Fu's ear and turned around to leave without bothering with the rest. Chapter 1968. Guests from All Places, 3. The people there all started panicking as they saw their only hope, the Holy Lord of Shadows, walking away. Xue Fu spoke up. The Holy Lord of Shadows has decreed that since the central mainland is currently in a dire state, she will offer a helping hand and allow all of you to stay in the Temple of Shadows for now. Visible relief filled them. They could finally set down a huge stone within their hearts. But before even waiting for joy to fill their faces, Xue Fu spoke again. Where is the Sacred Martial Academy? Everyone froze as they heard this. Moments later, the president of the Sacred Martial Academy walked forward uneasily with a few people by his side. Greetings, Guardian. I am the president of the Sacred Martial Academy. What orders do you have for me? Xue Fu glanced at the terrified president and ignored him. He then lifted his chin at an undead clan guard by his side. Before the president of the Sacred Martial Academy could understand what was going on, the undead clan guards had grabbed all of them and threw them out of the temple. Guardian! Guardian! What's happening? The president was in a panic. Didn't the Holy Lord just say that she was offering them shelter? The people of the Sacred Martial Academy are not to take one step into the Temple of Shadows or they will be killed without hesitation, Xue Fu said expressionlessly. If not for the generosity of the Holy Lord, Xue Fu and the other wouldn't even have shown any compassion to the human race. They had nothing to say now that Yi Qingtang had ordered them to throw out the Sacred Martial Academy. Everyone from the Sacred Martial Academy started panicking. They had no idea why everyone else had been offered the protection of the Temple of Shadows and they were the only ones being thrown out. They hadn't done anything yet, so how exactly had offended the Holy Lord of Shadows? No matter how hard they couldn't understand this at all. But they were unwilling to give up their last hope even after they had been thrown out. They knelt in front of the Temple of Shadows and begged bitterly to be let in. The Sacred Martial Academy had been pursued and hunted by the enemy and had barely escaped with their lives, pinning their hopes on the protection of the Temple of Shadows. If the Temple of Shadows rejected them, they would be killed and mutilated so badly there would be no bodies left to bury the moment they left. But no matter how much they begged, there was no response. Xue Fu paid no heed and ordered the undead clan guard impatiently to throw the Sacred Martial Academy out of the Temple of Shadows. The moment they were thrown out, their enemies who had been waiting outside the Temple of Shadows all rushed in for the kill. In the blink of an eye, the people from the Sacred Martial Academy had all been massacred, with not a single one left. Xue Fu merely nodded lightly after being informed of this. The other people in the temple all shivered as they heard the news. As the Sacred Martial Academy lay outside covered in blood, everyone was reminded of how their enemies were all lying in wait right outside the Temple of Shadows, ready to attack them at a moment's notice. They didn't dare enter solely because of the might of the Temple of Shadows, which meant that only death awaited them if they stepped out of the Temple of Shadows. In an instant, everyone was determined to stay in the Temple of Shadows. They would rather kill themselves than leave. Yi Qingtang had no time to care about the deaths of the Sacred Martial Academy since Ming Wang had brought more news. The other people from the Jiang family had arrived, along with the North Star Demon Lord who had been protecting them. Chapter 1969. Spy 1. Yi Qingtang's eye brightened as she heard this and she quickly rushed over. The others from the Jiang family had already met up with Jiang Sun and the rest when she headed over. But even though they had said that some of them had managed to escape, there were at most only 8 or 9 people in total, including Jiang Sun and the rest. Moe was with them as well. You mean, Jiang Qin and Yi, you really betrayed the Jiang family? A pale-faced Jiang Yiming looked at Jiang Sun in confusion. Jiang Yiming had been great friends with Yi back when he was in the Jiang family and was Yi's second biggest backer in the family. He had used to cause Yi Qingtang a lot of trouble because of her. Never would he have dreamed that the 2 people closest to him would end up being the downfall of the Jiang family. His entire being seemed to collapse. His parents had died in the hands of the young man from the ancient Yu clan. Jiang Lu patted Jiang Yiming's shoulders and sighed sorrowfully. I knew from the start that Yi Yu was nothing good. The North Star Demon Lord had both his hands on his waist as his face filled with anger. To him, anyone who wasn't on his sister's side was bad. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but smile as she saw North Star Demon Lord in high spirits. She could tell that he was much stronger than he was before. Apart from this familiar face, Yi Qingtang spotted Yu Qiong as well. What was Yu Qiong doing here? Yi Qingtang thought that this was strange, but an idea surfaced in her heart as she looked at Yu Qiong. The people from the Jiang family stepped forward as they saw the Holy Lord of Shadows, approaching them in her gold mask. Greetings, Holy Lord. They knew that Yi Qingtang had saved the domain monarch, Jiang Lang and Jiang Sun, and were grateful for that. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly as her gaze brushed past Moe. Moe's expression was terrible. Her previous wound had not healed entirely yet, and the tragedy on the Jiang family had taken a toll on her as well. Seeing her current state, Yi Qingtang's heart sank. The Jiang family didn't dare make any mistakes in front of the Holy Lord. Even though they were grateful, they were still overly cautious in front of her. Only North Star Demon Lord gazed bright-eyed at the rumored powerful Holy Lord, which made Yi Qingtang smile. She let the Jiang family take refuge in the temple for now, but was curious about why North Star Demon Lord had followed them. It was then that she heard the answer from North Star Demon Lord himself. The ancient Yu clan's influence had already spread to the demons' territory, and many of them had decided to side with the ancient Yu clan. North Star Demon Lord was arrogant and refused to be associated with those demons, so he had escaped. Since you're already here, just stay. Yi Qingtang didn't want any harm to come to her brother. North Star Demon Lord's mouth split into a smile as he thanked her, thinking in his heart that the rumored Holy Lord of Shadows wasn't as scary as he thought after all. She was kind. As Yi Qingtang's gaze swept over them, she realized that the small Yu Qiong was hiding behind them, as though he was keeping something from her. Yi Qingtang smiled in her heart and singled him out. Yu Qiong's heart almost jumped out of his chest as he was singled out, and he wanted nothing more than to die in that instant. Greetings, Holy Lord, Yu Qiong said cautiously. All he had in his mind was the thought that no matter what, he could not let himself be thrown out. Chapter 1970, Spy, 2. Before entering the land of infinite demons, Yu Qiong had met with the Holy Lord of Shadows a few times as an elder of the ancient Yu clan. Now that the ancient Yu clan was committing all sorts of heinous deeds on the mainland, he was afraid that his identity was going to be revealed. It would mean certain death for him. Yi Qingtang only laughed without saying anything and singled him out. The Jiang family had no clue about his true identity and only knew that he was Jiang Ye's friend. They weren't surprised that Yi Qingtang seemed to recognize him. But he started panicking as Yi Qingtang pulled him out. Please have mercy on me, Holy Lord of Shadows. The actions of the ancient Yu clan have nothing to do with me. I've already abandoned the dark ways. Yu Qiong spilled everything as he realized while looking at the Holy Lord of Shadows that she seemed to have recognized him. Yi Qingtang found this extremely amusing but maintained her cold expression, which made Yu Qiong panic even more. You've already abandoned the dark ways? Yi Qingtang repeated his words as she raised an eyebrow. Yu Qiong quickly nodded. You, an elder of the ancient Yu clan, have hidden yourself within the Jiang family. Are you sure you don't have ulterior motives? Yi Qingtang asked. Yu Qiong wanted to cry. How would he dare have ulterior motives? To tell the truth, as I'm sure the Holy Lord can tell, I'm not looking like this because I want to. I'm under the age reversal curse. I'm sure the Holy Lord knows of the effects of the age reversal curse as well as how the ancient Yu clan is. I won't be treated well if I go back in my current state. The Jiang family has saved me as well, and I've long abandoned the dark ways and the ancient Yu clan. Why else would I not divulge the location of the domain monarch and everyone else to the ancient Yu clan? Yu Qiong did seem to not have any ulterior motives and spilled everything. It was only then that Yi Qingtang finally let him off the hook. Yu Qiong sighed silently with relief. But Yi Qingtang wasn't actually letting him off this easily. She had no choice but to deal with him in the past, but he could be of some use right now. Since you said that you've abandoned the dark ways, I want to see how sincere you are. She lifted her hand and clamped it over his shoulders as she silently activated the deity ocean within her. Pain coursed through the entirety of his body as she activated her energy. The Holy Lord of Shadows wanted to kill him? Just as he was panicking, he suddenly realized that his body had elongated. His body, which had belonged to a toddler, had suddenly grown into a young boy of about 13. This made him freeze. Yi Qingtang froze as well as she saw this. All she had wanted to try using the power of the deity ocean to dissolve the curse in his body. She hadn't expected it to work. Holy Lord? Yu Qiong looked in shock at Yi Qingtang, not knowing whether she wanted to kill him or save him. She composed herself and said lightly, "Return to the ancient Yu clan if you've really given up your dark ways." What? Somehow, her words made Yu Qiong even more terrified. Why did he have to return if he had already abandoned the dark ways? I can help you get rid of the age reversal curse. You're an elder of the ancient Yu clan who has been missing for 10,000 years. It's normal if you return now, Yi Qingtang said lightly. Yu Qiong's head was spinning as he suddenly understood what she was saying. She wanted him to return to the ancient Yu clan as a spy. Chapter 1971, Spy, 3. Yu Qiong's mind churned as thoughts raced through it before he could even register them properly. It was true that he would have nothing to worry about when he went back if she got rid of his curse, but, of course, I've left a little present from the undead clan in you in case you feel an urge to betray us. The moment you feel like betraying us, I will make sure that you die a death so horrible there won't be a body left to bury. It doesn't matter even if I am thousands of miles away. Yi Qingtang seemed to have figured out what he was thinking, and she narrowed her eyes at him. Yu Qiong trembled in fear when he heard this. He wouldn't have believed it if it were anyone else saying this, but he didn't dare doubt the words coming out of the powerful Holy Lord of Shadows. Please have mercy, Holy Lord. How would I dare have the courage to betray you? Yu Qiong pleaded with her on the surface, but he was internally praying to his ancestors. He knew that it wasn't going to be this easy. Yi Qingtang smiled. Don't worry, I won't joke around with your life. All you have to do is return to the ancient Yu clan. I will tell you what to do when we need you. Yu Qiong seemed to agree on the surface, but it was actually a tough decision for him internally. If only he had known this earlier. Then he wouldn't have followed the Jiang family here. He was in a terrible position now. What right did he have to struggle now that his puny life was in the hands of the Holy Lord? Yes, I will obey all of the Holy Lord's instructions. What other choice did he have? Seeing that he had been thoroughly intimidated by her, Yi Qingtang activated the deity ocean within her and purged the curse from him. In the blink of an eye, Yu Qiong transformed into a 60-year-old man with a face filled with wrinkles. Even though he had regained his appearance, it was impossible for his powers to recover as quickly. In his current state, he was only half as powerful as he was in the past. Once she had settled Yu Qiong, Yi Qingtang arranged for his return to the ancient Yu clan. But she herself had no idea how useful this move would be. There was a huge gap between their current strength and the might of the ancient Yu clan. Even if Yu Qiong was able to get information about the ancient Yu clan, dealing with them would still be extremely difficult. Yi Qingtang had been thinking nonstop about how to defeat the ancient Yu clan once she had dealt with Yu Qiong. The ancient Yu clan had yet to make their move against the Temple of Shadows. But at the rate they were devouring the powerful people of the central mainland, the Temple of Shadows was going to be their final target soon. It would be hard to avoid a massacre. It was only a matter of time. Yi Qingtang had too few cards on her side. With these thoughts flying around messily in her mind, Yi Qingtang walked back to her room with her head down. Because she had been afraid that the Jiang family would recognize the little white tiger, She had not had it by her side the past few days. As she was about to push open the door to her room, a figure suddenly appeared behind her. "Hold, Lord, you seem to be agonizing over the ancient Yu clan." Yi Qingtang lifted her head as she heard this and saw Ling Yan smiling faintly at her. She froze. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Xuefu walking by with a few undead clan guards on patrol. She kept her mouth shut and dragged Ling Yan into her room. Xuefu, who was on patrol, was left speechless. What had he just witnessed? Guardian, that human, an undead clan guard was stunned. Chapter 1972, Male Pet 1. The Holy Lord of Shadows' room was forbidden ground in the Temple of Shadows. Only the two holy sons were allowed to enter, and even Xuefu and the rest of them were not allowed to step in. This had been on the Holy Lord's strict orders. But they had seen with their own eyes the Holy Lord pulling a human man into her room. And she had been so rough with him. Xuefu's lips twitched. "Do not speak of this." The undead clan members all shut their mouths and lowered their gazes. Although Xuefu looked calm on the surface, inside he was crawling with excitement. After making arrangements for the patrol to leave, he quickly ran over to Ming Wang to report on his findings. Ming Wang's frozen face, which had not changed for thousands of years, showed surprise as he heard the news. Even the 8 tribe leaders who had been discussing matters with him couldn't help but widen their eyes. The Holy Lord's room. Even they had never been inside before. "Where is this human from?" the goblin tribe leader asked, bursting with curiosity. "I think he's the Emperor of the Eternal Dynasty, Ling Yan," Xuefu said. "So, it's him," the goblin tribe leader said ambiguously. "HM? You know him?" the demon tribe asked in surprise. The goblin tribe leader laughed darkly and said, "How could I not know him? We at the Temple of Shadows had already chosen a successor from the Eternal Dynasty, but that person was later abandoned by the Holy Lord of Shadows, who chose to support this Ling Yan instead. This led to so much conflict with the people at the sacred ground of reflection. I've heard that even though Ling Yan isn't strong, he is extremely intelligent and handsome." "Humph, you call that handsome? I'm the one you should be calling handsome. You have no taste." The demon tribe leader scoffed and licked his face as he patted his strong biceps. "How are those weak arms any good to look at? You may think that he's ugly, but the Holy Lord thinks that he's handsome. You know that the Holy Lord's taste is different from ours," the goblin tribe leader said coldly. Left speechless, everyone fell silent. When the Holy Lord of Shadows had first appeared in her human form, the undead clan had thought that she was enduring the humiliation to gain a foothold in the central mainland. It must have been so hard to keep that ugly appearance the entire day. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying the Holy Lord and this little rascal Ling Yan?" The goblin tribe leader seemed to be implying something. "The Holy Lord is still a female after all, and she hasn't had an emperor by her side all these years." The goblin tribe leader left the rest unsaid. The other tribe leaders seemed to understand what he was implying. They looked at each other and smiled wretchedly. Ming Wang's face darkened, but he remained silent. Even if she wanted an emperor, he shouldn't be someone like this. "I remember when Holy Lord was in the Crimson League, he would have been a nobody to her." The demon tribe leader seemed to want to say something else but held himself back. The goblin tribe leader said, "No one can force the Holy Lord to do anything she doesn't like. Who knows, our Holy Lord may have strange tastes. She may not only like aliens. Furthermore, I never said that he would become the emperor. Don't the humans have a word for this? A male pet." Meanwhile, the male pet in question, Ling Yan, was dragged into Yi Qingtang's room. Before he even had a chance to regain his footing, he was thrown to the side. Chapter 1973, Male Pet 2. Yi Qingtang didn't even spare a glance at him. She was too busy looking at the patrol of undead clan guards outside. Seeing that nothing seemed out of place, she retracted her gaze and closed the door. "Holy Lord, I am beyond grateful to you for taking in the people of the Eternal Dynasty. If this is how the Holy Lord wants me to repay my debt, I will gladly do so." Ling Yan's voice floated into her ears. "What debt?" Yi Qingtang was utterly confused and turned to say a few words to him when she suddenly saw Ling Yan was lying on her bed, his neat clothes pulled open, revealing his white neck and collarbones. She was speechless. How had she thrown him onto the bed? What is the Holy Lord waiting for? I'm ready. Ling Yan blinked at her suggestively and pulled at his clothes draped over his shoulder. Yi Qingtang stared at him wordlessly. Could he please be more decent? Stop that at once. Seeing that he was about to strip completely, she quickly rushed over and pulled his clothes back together. Damn it! Are the two of you that deprived? Little White Tiger, who had come out after hearing noises from the room, looked at the two of them tangled on the bed in surprise. At that moment, Yi Qingtang was pressed on top of Ling Yan, pulling on his clothes with a fierce expression. The scene looked extremely suggestive. Well, I'll make space for the two of you then. Little White Tiger sighed and turned to leave. It was time for that again. Wait dash. Before Yi Qingtang could finish her sentence, Little White Tiger had slipped away silently. She was speechless. What the hell was this? What had she done? Holy Lord! Ling Yan smiled as he looked at the masked Yi Qingtang. She quickly regained her wits, smacked Ling Yan on the head and stood to the side like he had some kind of disease. God damn it, wear your clothes properly or I'll throw you out. Every time she looked at Ling Yan, it just made her head hurt. Was this idiot here to help her or annoy her? HM? Does the Holy Lord no longer want me? What a pity. Ling Yan sat up with a face of regret and adjusted his clothes. Call me Holy Lord another time and I will make sure you can't get up again. Yi Qingtang glared and shook her fists at him. Ling Yan smiled and said, I wouldn't mind if you were so good I couldn't get up after. Yi Qingtang let out a pained cry and covered her ears. What was she hearing? It was lucky that she still had her mask on, or her beet-red face would have been revealed. What did you need me for? Spit it out if you have something to say, she quickly said to shut his liberal mouth up. Ling Yan chuckled. Yi Qingtang's expression was enough for him to stop teasing her. I guess you're worried about the situation with the ancient Yu clan? Are you not? How could you not be when you've crammed all the people from the Eternal Dynasty into the Temple of Shadows? Yi Qingtang said. The smile on Ling Yan's face vanished as she looked at her. Damn, that was too much. The ancient Yu clan is already so powerful that no one in the central mainland can go against them. Why not turn to the second domain? Ling Yan asked. Chapter 1974, Male Pet, 3. Before she continued, she would have to pacify him first. The second domain? Yi Qingtang's brows furrowed. The Temple of Shadows belonged to a different alliance named the Crimson League when it was in the second domain. The Crimson League had significant power even in the second domain. When the Holy Lord of Shadows disappeared back then, Ming Di was suppressed. The Temple of Shadows lost both sources of power and naturally lost its status in the Crimson League and was removed. But now, the Holy Lord of Shadows has made a comeback and Ming Di has been released. The Temple of Shadows certainly can return to the Crimson League, Ling Yan said. You want me to lead the Temple of Shadows to return to the Crimson League and convince them to deal with the ancient Yu clan? Yi Qingtang didn't know much about the Crimson League. She barely had any contact with them even during her previous lifetime. Ling Yan shook his head. It's not that easy for the Temple of Shadows to return to the Crimson League, but if you can make use of the Crimson League, you can easily strike the ancient Yu clan down with no doubt. Make yourself clear. How do I do that? Yi Qingtang asked. Miss Yi, are you anxious? Why don't you make a guess? Don't worry, I will make sure to help you with it. Yi Qingtang, why does it sound so weird? Before Yi Qingtang could even make sense of his words, Ling Yan continued. The Crimson League rarely interferes with the first domain, but if anyone tries to threaten their interests and reputation, the Crimson League would never let it go. There's no need for you to approach the Crimson League. You just need to make it known to the Crimson League that the ancient Yu clan is ambitious and is not only aiming for the central mainland, but also the second domain. Once that happens, the Crimson League would not just ignore it. Even if the ancient Yu clan is truly ambitious, they are not that foolish to provoke the powerful ones in the second domain. I don't think the Crimson League would be easily convinced. Yi Qingtang felt that Ling Yan's plan had a big loophole. It wasn't like him. Miss Yi, don't worry. I'll let you know about every step, including what to say and what to do. Ling Yan looked at Yi Qingtang with a smile. Yi Qingtang could somehow sense that his gaze was unusual. She quickly changed the topic. We can talk about it next time. I have some questions for you regarding something else. Yi Qingtang retrieved the fragments of the spirit of chaos that the various powerful ancient clans had handed to her from the space ring, showing it to Ling Yan. These are the fragments from the spirit of chaos. The ancient clans handed them to me. What can I do with it? Why is the ancient Yu clan so determined to get their hands on these fragments? Yi Qingtang couldn't figure out what the fragments could be used for even after looking at it repeatedly. She wasn't able to get any response from it even after pouring energy into it. There is no use of it at all, Ling Yan said. What? Yi Qingtang was taken aback. The fragments will only become something useful to the ancient Yu clan after they are pieced together. It would not be of any use to the ancient Yu clan if it were missing even a single piece, Ling Yan said. So that was it. That explained why the ancient Yu clan was after the ancient clans that owned the fragments of the spirit of chaos. Chapter 1975. The Crimson League 1. What exactly is the spirit of chaos? Will it bring the ancient Yu clan more benefits? Or is it greater power? Yi Qingtang didn't have much understanding of the spirit of chaos. She had only heard a little about it from the ancient clans. With her current identity as the Holy Lord of Shadows, she couldn't possibly go around asking others about it. Miss Yi, you don't need to figure out what exactly the spirit of chaos is. So long as they have not been fully collected, they are just useless fragments, Ling Yan answered. Does the Eternal Dynasty own any spirit of chaos fragments? Yi Qingtang asked. Ling Yan shook his head. Only the various powerful ancient clans own these fragments. As for the fragment belonging to the Temple of Shadows, it was taken away from an ancient clan by the Holy Lord of Shadows. Even the sacred ground of reflection never owned it. Yi Qingtang gave it some thought. You want me to contact the Crimson League, but what can they do for me? I'm not familiar with the second domain and have no idea about how to find the Crimson League. Moreover, if she were to leave the central mainland and head to the second domain, the ancient Yu clan could possibly hear of the news. Even if she was a fake, she still had the ability to keep the ancient Yu clan in line as long as she stayed in the central mainland. Of course you can't leave the central mainland, but you're forgetting that you don't have to physically go to the second domain to contact the Crimson League, Ling Yan said. Even though the Crimson League is a strong power based in the second domain, they have their people in the first domain, right in the central mainland. Miss Yi, you would just have to find the members of the Crimson League who are currently in the central mainland to pass them the news. Do you know where these members are at now? Yi Qingtang looked at Ling Yan with hope in her eyes. Ling Yan smiled when he saw her eyes sparkle with anticipation. Then he very decisively shook his head. Yi Qingtang, is it too late to beat him to death now? Ling Yan couldn't help but laugh when he saw Yi Qingtang's expression change. You know it. I know it? The corners of Yi Qingtang's mouths twitched a little. She should just beat him to death. To be precise, the Holy Lord of Shadows should know. Not only the Holy Lord of Shadows, the 2 holy sons of the Temple of Shadows and the 8 tribe leaders know. You can ask them about how to find the Crimson League. Before Yi Qingtang could turn her thoughts into actions, Ling Yan gave an answer that calmed her down. Yi Qingtang had a rough direction of how things could go. As for how she could get the 8 tribe leaders or Ming Wang to let her know of how to find the members, she had to give it some further thought. Right when Yi Qingtang was thinking about what excuses she could make, she saw Ling Yan supporting his chin with one hand, his eyes crinkling into a smile as he looked at her. Just seeing his carefree expression made Yi Qingtang want to beat him up again. He had the audacity to smile even when his entire dynasty had been snatched over by the central dynasty? Was he magnanimous or what? What are you looking at? Yi Qingtang asked fiercely. I'm looking at you. Ling Yan smiled. Yi Qingtang felt that she couldn't continue with this fierce expression anymore. Miss Yi. What's the matter? It's been a long time, I missed you a lot. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. Before her temperature got even higher, she wasted no time and grabbed Ling Yan's collar, chasing him out of the room. Chapter 1976. The Crimson League 2. Little White Tiger only came out when it heard the sound of the door closing. Finished already? Yi Qingtang looked at Little White Tiger. Little White Tiger moved its whiskers. Ling Yan doesn't look too bad, but he's completely useless. It's only been this long. He's too weak. Yi Qingtang took a while to figure out what little white tiger meant. When she could finally comprehend what it just said, she couldn't help but want to sew its mouth shut. How could they still be in the mood to joke around? They couldn't control their mouths even at such times. Yi Qingtang truly was in no mood to think about anything else. The thought of the ancient Yu clan coming anytime stressed her out, feeling as though someone threatening her with a knife against her neck. As she thought about Ling Yan's suggestion, she recalled that the 8 tribe leaders did mention her return to the Crimson League before. Back then, Yi Qingtang was afraid that her identity might be exposed, so she didn't bother with it, but now. Wasting no time, Yi Qingtang called the 8 tribe leaders to inquire about the Crimson League's situation in the central mainland. The Holy Lord of Shadows had left the Temple of Shadows for too long. Before the Holy Lord of Shadows left, the Temple of Shadows still belonged to the Crimson League. This only happened years after she disappeared. It had been more than tens of thousands of years ago since the Holy Lord of Shadows broke off contact with the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang casually asked the 8 tribe leaders whether there were any changes regarding the Crimson League in the central mainland. Their answers made her heave a sigh of relief. Holy Lord, not too long after you left, the Crimson League removed us from the League. Following that, the ambassador's location in the central mainland also changed. Don't worry, we have been watching their moves all these years. The Goblin tribe's leader spoke, looking at Yi Qingtang with a hopeful expression. Before the removal from the Crimson League, the 8 tribe leaders felt suppressed and aggrieved. They knew for a fact that the Crimson League only agreed to let the Temple of Shadows join because of the Holy Lord of Shadows' capabilities. That explained why, after the disappearance of the Holy Lord of Shadows, the Temple of Shadows no longer qualified for the Crimson League. The 8 tribe leaders were unhappy at the Holy Lord of Shadows for the longest time ever for leaving without any notice, but at the same time, they anticipated the Holy Lord of Shadows' return so that they could return to the Crimson League. The 8 tribe leaders were initially suspicious about it, but after they confirmed, they felt even more strongly about the return to the Crimson League. They didn't dare to tell Yi Qingtang what to do and could only hint at it indirectly. Now that Yi Qingtang finally mentioned the Crimson League, the 8 tribe leaders couldn't wait to let her know about every single piece of news they collected about the Crimson League over these years. Nobody even realized that Yi Qingtang didn't have much understanding of the Crimson League. After all, the Holy Lord had left for so long. There were massive changes in the Crimson League and it wasn't unusual at all. Oh, tell me what you know. Yi Qingtang remained composed. The 8 tribe leaders told Yi Qingtang about everything they knew. One of the ambassadors from the Crimson League in the central mainland remained at the Temple of Shadows. After many years of waiting for the Holy Lord of Shadows to come back, the ambassador eventually informed the headquarters at the second domain to remove the Temple of Shadows from the Crimson League. Other than that one ambassador, they had a couple of capable ambassadors hidden among the central mainland. It was no surprise that the 8 tribe leaders had already found their locations. Chapter 1977, Crimson League 1, right in the Frost Abyss. The Frost Abyss was an extremely cold place. There were barely any people living there and only alien clans could tolerate the sub-zero freezing temperatures there. Before alien clans appeared in the central mainland, there was barely anyone living there. Holy Lord, the Temple of Shadows was removed from the Crimson League because you forsook the Temple of Shadows. Since you've already come back, perhaps we could contact the Crimson League. The demon tribe leader tested the waters. The 8 tribe leaders certainly wished for the Temple of Shadows to return to the Crimson League, but it all depended on Yi Qingtang's wishes. Yi Qingtang paused for a moment to think. Prepare yourselves over the next few days, we'll be heading to the Frost Abyss. Once Yi Qingtang said that, the 8 tribe leaders' eyes lit up. The Holy Lord was finally going to get in touch with the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang didn't let anyone else know about her trip to the Frost Abyss. She instructed Ming Wang and Ming Wang to guard the Temple of Shadows, making sure to take note of the ancient Yu clan's every move. She took the Demon Tribe leader and the Goblin Tribe leader with her as they headed for the Frost Abyss. Originally, Yi Qingtang had planned to take Ling Yan with her in case anything happened, but when she was reminded of the dangers at the Frost Abyss and Ling Yan's capabilities, it would be best for him to remain at the Temple of Shadows. Moreover, if Ling Yan stayed behind at the Temple of Shadows and the ancient Yu clan were to come, Ling Yan could immediately contact Yi Qingtang via the voice transmission stone. After making sure everything was taken care of, Yi Qingtang took the 2 tribe leaders with her and headed for the Frost Abyss. The Frost Abyss was quite a distance away from the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang didn't have much time left and could only rush over with the fastest speed possible. The entire Zenith Heaven was consumed by the ancient Yu clan's horrifying aura. The only place that was not affected was the Frost Abyss, since it had a freezing climate and no humans around. It was a boundless icy zone, with white snow covering the place and cold wind blowing around. Looking across, it was an entire piece of white scenery. The snow and the skies were all white. It was hard to distinguish one from the other. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but be reminded of the mystic realm she entered previously. The mystic realm was a freezing place, exactly like this. However, as compared to the coldness of the frozen ice fields, the coldness here didn't seem to have any effects on Yi Qingtang at all. This time, Yi Qingtang brought little white tiger out with her. After some time, a huge ice mountain appeared on the boundless icy zone. There was a thick layer of ice on top of the mountain, and the icy layer reflected the sun rays and the snowy ground. One wouldn't be able to easily spot the existence of the ice mountain. Holy Lord, the Frost Abyss is behind that ice mountain, the demon tribe leader said. Yi Qingtang nodded. Though she had once heard of the Frost Abyss, she had never been there before. If not, she wouldn't have needed the demon tribe leader and goblin tribe leader to be here with her. After passing the ice mountain, only then Yi Qingtang saw that behind the ice mountain, there was a huge crack on the snowy ground. The ground seemed to have cracked open and cold air wouldn't stop coming out from the crack. When she looked over, it seemed to be a bottomless pit and was pitch dark. This was the Frost Abyss, an extremely cold place that was cut off from the rest of the world. Without any further thought, Yi Qingtang flew down from the crack. The deeper she went, the lower the surrounding temperature. Chapter 1978, Crimson League 2. After flying for a couple of 100 meters, Yi Qingtang finally spotted a place where she could land. There were countless figures hidden inside the Frost Abyss. Yi Qingtang saw many alien races. The figures gathered together in the abyss that was cut off from the world. Although there were many alien races around, there was one particular race that Yi Qingtang hadn't seen before. It was a little white furry ball, around the size of a human's head. It was covered in white fur and looked just like little snowballs. They jumped around with those claws hidden underneath its fur. They were simply adorable. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but smile when she saw the little white balls jump around. Holy Lord, the ambassador of the Crimson League is over there. The goblin tribe leader pointed over at a cave in the Frost Abyss. There were all types of strange-looking weapons placed outside the cave, with a few little white balls standing outside the cave, communicating with the alien races with a special language. Yi Qingtang and the 2 tribe leaders walked over in their direction. The goblin tribe leader bowed, whispering in the ear of a little white ball that was slightly bigger in size. The little white ball hesitated for a bit before jumping into the cave. After a while, it jumped out and nodded at the goblin tribe leader. The goblin tribe leader then took Yi Qingtang with him into the cave. The cave was filled with ice lamps that were carved from crystals. They were glistening and very beautiful. One little white ball led the way in front while Yi Qingtang followed behind, and her eyes scanned through the ice lamps. The ice lamps were unique. Some were carved with beautiful totems and others were carved according to the respective shapes of the alien races. They were hung around the cave, lighting the dark cave up. They walked for quite some distance, and deep inside the cave, there was an ice door. They could somehow see some figures walking around behind that door, but it felt surreal. It was then that the little white ball stopped outside the door. Just as the goblin tribe leader was about to knock on the door, the ice door just opened up automatically. Holy Lord, we only heard that the ambassador is here, but we haven't actually verified it ourselves, the goblin tribe leader whispered in Yi Qingtang's ear. Yi Qingtang looked over at the ajar door. A white figure appeared before them. When Yi Qingtang saw the figure, she was somewhat bewildered. It was a fox demon. It had a build that was similar to a grown man, walking on 2 back legs, a slender figure and its entire body covered with white fur. There was a mark on its glabella, It seemed like 3 fire flames. The fox demon's eyes crinkled into a smile when it saw Yi Qingtang and the rest, the corners of its lips kicking up into a polite smile. Anything I can help you with? The fox demon sounded polite as it asked. It had a pleasant voice and no one could bring themselves to dislike it. When the demon tribe leader saw the fox demon, he stepped forward and asked, "You're the ambassador of the Crimson League?" Chapter 1979, Crimson League 3, Crimson League. The fox demon lifted its eyes, replying, "What is the Crimson League? I'm selling ice lamps here. You're welcome to pick any that you fancy, but if you're here for something else, I won't be able to entertain you." The demon tribe leader was stunned. What was going on? "We're from the Temple of Shadows." This time, the demon tribe leader wasn't done speaking. The fox demon was somehow impatient, wagging its tail. The Temple of Shadows? If I'm not wrong, the Temple of Shadows had nothing to do with the Crimson League long ago. Since you're not here for the ice lamps, you may leave. The demon tribe leader was stupefied. This damned fox was chasing them away before he could even finish his words? The goblin tribe leader's expression also turned horrendous. However, he had to keep his cool and not do anything stupid since the fox was the ambassador of the Crimson League. The Temple of Shadows was removed by the Crimson League back then because our Holy Lord disappeared. However, our Holy Lord is back now, the goblin tribe leader said. The fox demon looked at the tribe leaders before its eyes riveted on Yi Qingtang, who stood behind them. The Holy Lord of Shadows? Yes, this is our Holy Lord, the demon tribe leader said. The fox demon smiled. The Holy Lord of Shadows just disappeared for tens of thousands of years without giving any notice or updates at all. The Temple of Shadows was a member of the Crimson League, and when the Holy Lord left without notice, wasn't that as good as disregarding the Crimson League? The Crimson League never interferes in the matters of the First Domain, but you can't just come and go as you like. The Temple of Shadows only managed to join the Crimson League because of the Holy Lord of Shadows' persona capabilities. However, the Crimson League never received any news after the Holy Lord of Shadows disappeared. The Holy Lord of Shadows suddenly came back, but the Crimson League was not a tavern, so they couldn't just come and go as they liked. The fox demon's attitude was obviously different. Though it still was polite, it sounded insincere and not as welcoming. Likewise, the 2 tribe leaders were clearly displeased by its attitude. The fox demon didn't seem to be that powerful either. If only the 2 tribe leaders' powers weren't limited, they could defeat it with their usual powers. But now, the fox demon was being too much just because it was backed by the Crimson League. The 2 tribe leaders' faces turned somber. This fox demon would never dare to behave this way if it were to be in the past. They couldn't help but feel displeased, but still had to hold it in. Right before they could say anything, Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke. "You must have misunderstood something." When Yi Qingtang spoke, the fox demon's gaze landed on her. "Oh, Holy Lord, what do you mean?" Yi Qingtang took a step forward. "What do you think we came for today?" The fox demon smiled. "Aren't you here today to lead the Temple of Shadows back to the Crimson League?" "No." Yi Qingtang shook her head. The fox demon continued smiling. "Now you've made me curious. If it isn't to rejoin the Crimson League, then why are you here?" The demon tribe leader and goblin tribe leader were similarly confused by Yi Qingtang's words. Didn't they come so as to rejoin the Crimson League? Why would the Holy Lord suddenly say that? Was it because the Holy Lord was infuriated by that damned fox? "I came today to convey some words to the Crimson League." Chapter 1980, Crimson League 4. "What is it?" the fox demon asked. "The ancient Yu clan is eyeing the Crimson League," Yi Qingtang said. The fox demon paused for a moment before it laughed. "Holy Lord, you don't make a lot of sense. The Crimson League is based in the Second Domain, while we're at the Central Mainland now." The fox demon looked at Yi Qingtang and continued. "I'm not completely clueless about the outside world even though I'm at the Frost Abyss. From what I know, the ancient Yu clan has been quite radical recently in the Central Mainland. Their powers have also significantly increased, but this is all due to rivalry in the Central Mainland. I know that the ancient Yu clan and Temple of Shadows had a conflict previously. You're underestimating the Crimson League's information network if you think the Crimson League will join in just because you made up some news. The Fox Demon never took her words to heart. No matter Ancient U Clan's powers, they were based in the first domain. If they were to come head-to-head with the second domain's powers, it would be akin to seeking their own death. After all, the two domains were worlds apart. I'm here to say what I want to say, and it's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. Yi Qingtang remained composed. Though the Temple of Shadows has already been removed from the Crimson League, we were still once allies, and so I came to let you know about it. Oh, Holy Lord, you're quite nice then, aren't you? The Fox Demon let out a chuckle. With that, Yi Qingtang glanced at the Fox Demon. I'm sure you have your ways of learning about the outside world, but how much can you know? The Ancient U Clan can increase their powers by tenfold just in a year. How far do you think they can go over time? Yi Qingtang's words made the Fox Demon's expression change. Before the Fox Demon could even say anything, Yi Qingtang spoke first. Anyway, that is all I can say. Goodbye. Yi Qingtang didn't give the Fox Demon any chance to speak and just turned around and left. She was straight to the point, and the two tribe leaders were shocked. They quickly rushed out after her. Holy Lord, is the Ancient U Clan really that ambitious? They're eyeing the second domain's powers? The demon tribe leader asked Yi Qingtang right after they stepped out of the cave. The two tribe leaders were shocked by Yi Qingtang's actions earlier. Yi Qingtang hadn't mentioned a single word about returning to the Crimson League and absolutely nothing about repairing a relationship with the Crimson League. This made her words even more credible. What do you think? Yi Qingtang replied with composure. With the Ancient U Clan's current powers, they are considered the best in the first domain. However, they are still collecting the Spirit of Chaos fragments, which shows that they are not after the first domain. Moreover, the Ancient U Clan despised alien races all along. The Crimson League is the league for alien races in the second domain and would naturally be their first target. Yi Qingtang sounded confident and absolutely convincing, leaving the two tribe leaders bewildered. The Holy Lord was formidable to discover the Ancient U Clan's aims. The Crimson League had already removed them, but the Holy Lord was nice enough to let them know of the threats. That damned fox is very arrogant. It might not have just disregarded the Holy Lord's words. The Crimson League might not be able to appreciate the Holy Lord's good intentions, the demon tribe leader scoffed. Chapter 1981, Crimson League, 5. After all, I was once part of the Crimson League. Now I've done my part in sending them a reminder, so I have nothing else to do with it. Yi Qingtang discreetly observed the little white balls that passed by them. The little white balls headed in the direction of the Fox Demon's cave after hearing Yi Qingtang's words. Meanwhile, the two tribe leaders hadn't noticed a thing at all. When Yi Qingtang saw the little white balls head for the cave, a small smile quirked in the corner of her mouth. The snow spirit. It was a resentful spirit that was unique to the demon clan. It was barely seen in the first domain but widely known in the second domain. Yi Qingtang had never seen the snow spirit in her previous lifetime, she only heard a little about it. All she knew was that such resentful spirits were manipulated by the shaman of the demon clan. Yi Qingtang didn't think too much about it, but when she saw the mark on the fox demon's glabella, she realized that the fox demon was a shaman of the demon clan. The Fox Demon had mentioned it previously. It was clear about everything that happened in the central mainland. It must have gotten the news by manipulating the snow spirits. That meant the snow spirits were able to turn into different animals and hide around the mainland under the priest's manipulation. When Yi Qingtang walked out of the cave earlier, she already noticed that the snow spirits were casually hanging around her surroundings. In fact, she had meant to let those snow spirits overhear her conversation with the two tribe leaders. The snow spirits must have already reported back to the Fox Demon. Now that Yi Qingtang had already achieved her goals, she no longer needed to remain in the Frost Abyss. She took the tribe leaders with her and left, making sure that she was merely reminding them. Unsurprisingly, right after Yi Qingtang left the Frost Abyss got the news from the snow spirits. The Fox Demon's eyes narrowed. It didn't believe Yi Qingtang earlier on, but now, it went into deep thought. After a moment of silence, the Fox Demon walked in front of a huge ice mirror. Lifting its hand, beams of light shot out from the ice mirror. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind the ice mirror. The fox demon bowed respectfully when it saw the figure. "Greetings, priest." "What's the matter?" A deep voice came from inside the ice mirror. The fox demon briefly explained the purpose behind the Holy Lord of Shadows' visit and everything about the ancient Yu clan. The figure in the ice mirror paused for a moment before speaking. "What is your understanding of the ancient Yu clan?" Even though the Crimson League had a few ambassadors around the different mainlands in the First Domain, they didn't really bother with the First Domain because of the backward martial culture. The sudden increase in powers of the ancient Yu clan is indeed abnormal. The Holy Lord of Shadows also mentioned the Spirit of Chaos fragment. The ancient Yu clan seems to be collecting it, the fox demon reported. The figure in the ice mirror took a moment before replying. "I'll send someone over to the central mainland to investigate." Noted. If the Holy Lord of Shadows was speaking the truth, they had to do something to get rid of the ancient Yu clan's influence. However, if the Holy Lord of Shadows was trying to make use of the Crimson League to get rid of an enemy, the Temple of Shadows would become one of the Crimson League's main targets. Chapter 1982, Double-Edged Sword, 1. Yi Qingtang went to look for Ling Yan right after returning from the Frost Abyss. The two tribe leaders noticed her actions and exchanged complicated glances. Even though Holy Lord had finally been enlightened, but surely it's not the time now, right? Holy Lord, it isn't time for you to indulge in such temptation when the ancient Yu clan is eyeing everything. The two tribe leaders were feeling complicated inside, but none of them dared to say anything about it. Other than that doltish teenager, Ling Yan was the only normal person who entered the Holy Lord's room. It was normal for them to be curious. "Ling Yan, I went to look for Crimson League's ambassador in the central mainland just as you said. Do you really think it'll work?" Yi Qingtang had acted according to Ling Yan's plans and revealed the news to the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang understood the rationale behind his plans, but she was afraid that the Crimson League would not be easily fooled and it would not be easy to sow discord between them. "Miss Yi, to know whether it'll work, you'll just have to wait and see." Ling Yan smiled. "Don't just leave me hanging here. What exactly are you planning to do?" Yi Qingtang could somehow sense that Ling Yan was going to do something, but she wasn't certain yet. "It's not important whether the Crimson League believes you or not. We just need to sow doubt in them and they will send someone to investigate it. Moreover, I believe that the Crimson League is aware that the ancient Yu clan's powers have been increasing. They are not bothered by it because they think that it has nothing to do with them and will not threaten their interests since the ancient Yu clan is based in the First Domain. It won't be easy if you want the Crimson League to be completely convinced that the ancient Yu clan is eyeing them." Yi Qingtang was aware that Ling Yan's plan was a good one, but it wouldn't be easy to make use of the Crimson League. "Miss Yi, don't worry. The guests from the Crimson League will come to the Temple of Shadows in just a few days. That will be the beginning of our plan." Ling Yan smiled. If anything, Yi Qingtang was left completely confused by Ling Yan's ambiguous answer. Smart people would plan a few steps, but Ling Yan would plan even more steps ahead. Yi Qingtang could somehow guess what he was going to do next, but she couldn't catch anything further ahead. "How do you know that the Crimson League is going to send someone to the Temple of Shadows?" Yi Qingtang asked. "The Crimson League would definitely investigate it since you personally told them about it. If you spoke the truth, they would surely do something about it. Conversely, if it's untrue, the Crimson League would deal with the Temple of Shadows," Ling Yan explained. "Yi Qingtang, you're saying that if there's no way to convince the Crimson League that the ancient Yu clan is planning something against them, the Crimson League is going to ruin the Temple of Shadows instead?" Yi Qingtang's eyes narrowed as she asked Ling Yan. Ling Yan nodded. Strong alliances would never allow such accusations. They had to protect their image and reputation. They would never allow anyone to cross the lines. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched. She really wanted to slap Ling Yan when she saw him grinning. They were supposed to kill with a borrowed knife, but this knife had become a double-edged sword instead. If they were exposed, the Temple of Shadows would suffer even more dire consequences than the ancient Yu clan for sure. Chapter 1983, Double-Edged Sword, 2. Miss Yi, rest assured. Even if the Crimson League sends someone here, it's possibly because they want to take the Temple of Shadows back in again, Ling Yan added when he saw Yi Qingtang's hands ball up into fists. That's right. The Crimson League might allow the Temple of Shadows to rejoin after confirming the news. However, that was under the premise that they found out the ancient Yu clan was really going to threaten the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang felt a headache coming on. She wanted to just push him onto the ground and beat him up, but she still had some use for his brain. As quickly as the thought entered her mind, Yi Qingtang left Ling Yan's room in case she really lost control over herself and beat him up. Little Azure Dragon only came out after Yi Qingtang left. "You'll eventually be beaten up to death one day," said Little Azure Dragon. Ling Yan raised his brows, smiling without saying a word. Yi Qingtang wasn't certain about when the Crimson League would act. Before anything happened, she secretly contacted Yu Qiong. Yu Qiong had acted according to Yi Qingtang's plans and returned to the ancient Yu clan, recovering his status as an elder. As for how he managed to do that, he hadn't offered any explanation to Yi Qingtang yet. The great elder of the ancient Yu clan still was capable. Yu Qiong brought some news over from the ancient Yu clan. Since then, the ancient Yu clan had gone even more overboard. They went after the major forces in the central mainland and the forces were either massacred, if not, they would have to back down to the ancient Yu clan. The ancient Yu clan's sphere of influence increased consequently. They were about to become an enormous influence, the first in the central mainland. Yi Qingtang secretly watched the ancient Yu clan's every move and on the other hand, she instructed Xue Fu to send Jiang Shaobai back to the Jiang family so that they could take care of him. As time passed, the central mainland's demographics also completely transformed. Even more ancient clans suffered and the only few existing ones who hadn't sought help from the Temple of Shadows had hidden somewhere unknown. Almost the entire central mainland was under the ancient Yu clan's control. The ancient clans within the Temple of Shadows were worried. They weren't foolish. They could somehow sense that the Temple of Shadows and themselves would eventually be the final target of the ancient Yu clan. However, Yi Qingtang didn't seem to have planned anything yet. They couldn't help but feel worried. 1 month passed and the knife that was balancing on top of everyone's head was going to fall at any time. Ming Di had already suggested a couple of times to leave the temple and combat the ancient Yu clan, but his suggestion had been rejected by Yi Qingtang over and over again. Finally Yu Qiong had some news. The ancient Yu clan had sent someone to watch the Temple of Shadows' every move. Yi Qingtang certainly couldn't allow Ming Di to just do anything he wanted. "Holy Lord, this is the list of ancient clans that have been massacred by the ancient Yu clan, please look through it." Lady Ghost handed the file to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang looked through it and couldn't help but frown. The ancient Yu clan was advancing at an even more manic rate. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to say something, a piercing sound rang in her ears. "What just happened?" Yi Qingtang asked with furrowed brows. "Holy Lord, please hold on. I'll go and have a look." Lady Ghost immediately went out. Could it be that the ancient Yu clan was here for the Temple of Shadows already? Lady Ghost quickly walked towards the hall to check. The piercing sound had alarmed everyone in the Temple of Shadows. Even those from the ancient clans also came out. They were all shocked as they looked at the sky. Chapter 1984, Double-Edged Sword, 3. A huge, dragon-like beast was circling in the sky. 3 cicada wings sprouted from its back and its head was different from a dragon's. It was more like a 3-headed snake. The beast hovered above the Temple of Shadows like an ominous rain cloud, casting a huge shadow over the temple. "What is that?" asked a young man from the ancient clan. He had never seen such a creature before, but chills ran down his spine as he looked at it. "Is that a wind snake?" an ancient clan leader said as he frowned. But before he could continue, he was hit with a sense of foreboding. "A wind snake shouldn't be this big, and they only have a pair of wings. That's a mutant wind snake," a loud voice suddenly rang out. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. It came from Northstar Demon Lord, who had walked out with the Jiang family. They were all looking at the huge creature in the sky. Mutant wind snake? The ancient clan people were all confused. They had no idea that a wind snake could be a mutant. Northstar Demon Lord continued, "I've only heard about it in legends as well. My mother mentioned it before, that the wind snake is already a rare creature within the demon race, and only 1 out of 100,000 is mutant. Everyone froze when they heard this. 1 out of 100,000? What kind of joke was this? There were only about 1,000 wind snakes in the central mainland. It shouldn't exist in the first domain. North Star Demon Lord's expression was dark. As a demon, he knew better than everyone else how terrifying wind snake was, let alone a mutant one. Do you think it's from the ancient Yu clan? The people panicked as they thought about that. They all subconsciously wanted to seek shelter from the undead clan, but all realized that Lady Ghost and the rest of them had a complicated expression on their faces as they looked at the mutant wind snake. The Crimson League? Xue Fu asked Lady Ghost as he looked at the mutant wind snake in the sky. Lady Ghost looked at the mutant wind snake and nodded. Their voices weren't particularly loud, but it was enough for the ancient clan people beside them to hear. They all froze in surprise as they heard the words Crimson League. Crimson League. What kind of joke was this? What was the strongest alliance from the second domain doing in the central mainland? They were reminded of how the powerful people of the second domain had invaded them long ago. Even though they were nothing special in the second domain, they had almost destroyed the entire central mainland. This beast from the Crimson League was enough to crush all the powerful people sent from the second domain. The same Crimson League that had unimaginable power in the central mainland. Just as the people were discussing the Crimson League in surprise, the huge beast descended from the sky. The 3 wings were only flapping gently, yet stones flew in all directions on the ground. Huge stones were blown into the air and reduced to smithereens by the mutant wind snake's powerful wings. The powerful people of the ancient clan had to use their spirit energy to stabilize themselves so as not to be blown into the air. As the mutant wind snake descended, 3 figures on its back came into view. It was 3 strange-looking people from an alien clan. Their leader was in a black coat, his face not visible despite the bright sun. The only thing they could make out was a stream of black smoke emanating from his sleeves. Chapter 1985. The Arrival of the Crimson League. 1. Standing behind the mysterious person in the black clothes was a man and a woman. The man's complexion was as fair as porcelain and was glowing slightly. He was smiling gently, calmly, and looked just like a porcelain doll. Similarly, the woman was mesmerizing as well. She was extremely slender, her waist as small as a clenched fist, and she was in a green, tight-waisted dress which accentuated her slim waist even more. Her face was ethereal. There were 2 peonies at the edge of her beautiful eyes, which seemed to bloom every time she looked up. They were enough to bewitch anyone looking at her. They were definitely not human. They were from an alien race. Xue Fu frowned slightly as he saw the lady from the alien race. Why is it her? You know her? Lady Ghost had entered the Temple of Shadows later than Xue Fu, and even though it had still been associated with the Crimson League, they already had very little interaction. Xue Fu's expression was strange, but he remained silent. Black mist spread out from their feet as the mutant wind snake landed. The feet of the 3 of them did not touch the ground as the black mist underneath them continued to spread. The ancient clan people standing around them suddenly felt a chill that penetrated deep into their bones. The chill was akin to the coldness of death which seemed to come from within their hearts. But in an instant, the youngest members of the ancient clan who were within the mist suddenly turned pale. Their lips purpled as they knelt to the ground in pain, as though someone was strangling them. How is Mo Yao taking care of the Temple of Shadows? How can there be humans here? The woman looked at the collapsed young people in disgust, as though she was looking at a pile of repulsive ants. Mo Yao was the Holy Lord of Shadows' name. In the entire Temple of Shadows, other than an angry Ming Di, no one dared to call the Holy Lord of Shadows by her name. What an eyesore! The alien race woman lifted her eyes, as she lifted her slim, long fingers slowly, the nails at the end as sharp as blades. With a flick of her fingers, a wisp of glittery mist flew out. Xue Fu felt an extreme source of foreboding as he saw that, but it was too late for him to cry out. The glittery mist spread all around them. Before the people of the ancient clans could even understand what was going on, the mist had dispersed into the air and adhered to their bodies. In the next second, A vine burst forth from where the mist had stuck to the people and quickly tore one of the men apart. The strong stench of blood quickly filled the air. Those who had been touched by the mist all shrieked as though they had seen a ghost. They could all feel something lurking within them, waiting to implode. Guardian Xuefu, save us. Xuefu's expression was extremely dark as he heard the tinkling laugh of the alien race lady as she looked at the blood in front of her. He frowned as he suppressed the foreboding feeling in his heart and walked forward. Greetings, our three ambassadors. Chapter 1986, The Arrival of the Crimson League, 2. Busy admiring her craft, annoyance flashed across the face of the alien race lady as she was interrupted. She merely glanced at Xuefu and uttered two words. Get lost. Still, Xuefu steeled himself and refused to leave. He didn't care whether the ancient clan people lived or died, but now that they were under the care of the Holy Lord of Shadows, it would cast doubt on the Holy Lord of Shadows' reputation if they died. Lady Baiji, please have some mercy on us. You recognize me? The alien race lady said as she raised her brows. Xuefu said, I had the honor of meeting your grace many years ago in the Crimson League. HM. To think that you dare interrupt my joy even when you know who I am? I see that Mo Yao hasn't been taking good care of this place, seeing as she is mixing with humans now. I'll help her out then. Murderous intent flashed across Baiji's eyes. Xuefu's expression turned ugly. At that moment, the person in the black robes spoke up. Let's get down to business. The voice that came out of the figure was otherworldly, as though it was coming from a dream. Just hearing it was enough to make their hair stand on end. Baiji narrowed her eyes but did not rebut this. With a wave of her hand, she dispersed the mist, sparing the lives of the ancient clan people. Xuefu sighed in relief and looked at the person in black robes. I was not informed that ambassadors from the Crimson League would be arriving. Let us move into the main hall and I will inform the Holy Lord. The person in black robes nodded slightly and without another word, moved the three of them into the Temple of Shadows with the black mist. Xuefu instructed Lady Ghost to take care of the ancient clan people and quickly headed over to inform Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was still waiting for Lady Ghost to report back to her and was surprised to see Xuefu instead. Holy Lord, ambassadors from the Crimson League are waiting for you in the main hall, Xuefu informed her with a difficult expression. Yi Qingtang was speechless. They were already here? Although she was extremely surprised, she maintained a calm expression on the surface. Who's here? There are three of them. I don't recognize two, but one of them is Lady Baiji. Xuefu couldn't help but look at Yi Qingtang's expression as he mentioned Baiji's name. But what expression could she even show? She didn't know any of them. Her face remained expressionless. Xuefu gritted his teeth and said, the ancient clan people walked out to take a look when the three of them arrived, but this angered Lady Baiji and she killed a few of them. Yi Qingtang was truly in despair now. This really was a double-edged sword. They had slaughtered people under her watch even before making a move against the ancient Yu clan? Seeing Yi Qingtang frown, Xuefu quickly spoke. Please do not be angry, Holy Lord. Lady Baiji and the Holy Lord have not seen eye to eye for a long time, but we do not know her intention for coming forward this time. Holy Lord, please take this into consideration. So the Holy Lord of Shadows and Lady Baiji had discord between them? Yi Qingtang was stunned. She had no idea where this Baiji was from but was surprised that she could go up against the Holy Lord of Shadows. Of course, the Crimson League would send some powerful people over. After taking some time to think things through, Yi Qingtang started walking towards the main hall. The 8 tribe leaders and other important people of the Temple of Shadows were all gathered in the main hall by the time she arrived. Even Minggu, who rarely showed himself, was in the main hall, his eyes submissive as he looked at Baiji. Baiji smiled as she saw Ming Wang and Minggu and said jokingly, the two of you haven't been killed by Mo Yao yet? Gritting his teeth, Minggu was held back as Ming Wang grabbed his arm. Chapter 1987, The Arrival of the Crimson League, 3. Baiji wasn't someone they could take on. After a second, Yi Qingtang walked into the main hall with her golden mask on. As soon as she was seated, she spotted the 3 from the alien race on the black mist. Yi Qingtang silently touched the cold mist. What frightening power! Even though the three ambassadors had not shown their true powers yet, Yi Qingtang's perception of other people's power had become more acute after entering the Holy Venerate realm. In her eyes, the three of them were surrounded by a horrendous level of power, with the person in black robes being the most terrifying one. This was expected since they were from the Crimson League and their power was vastly different from even the powerful people of the central mainland. Yi Qingtang had no doubt that any of these three could easily wipe out the ancient clan people outside, and without sparing much effort at all. What she was seeing of their powers was merely the tip of the iceberg. The difference between the first domain and the second domain was truly immense. She had experienced this difference before in her previous life and nothing had changed this time around. Ling Yan, this double-edged sword of yours isn't going to be easy to use. Yi Qingtang was acutely aware of the hostile glance the lady was casting at her the moment she sat down. She made no effort to conceal her hostility. This was probably the Bai Ji Xuefu was talking about. Inside, Yi Qingtang was despairing. Who knew that there would be an old enemy among the ambassadors that the Crimson League had sent over? Wasn't she going to die then? While her heart was in turmoil, she maintained her calm composure and spoke. What business do the three of you have with me? Mo Yao, why are you asking when you already know the answer? Bai Ji asked as she raised her chin slightly. HM? What am I supposed to know? Yi Qingtang shot back calmly in a steady tone. Weren't you the one who informed the Snow Fox that the ancient Yu clan had an agenda against the Crimson League? Bai Ji asked coldly. That's right, I did say that. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly and continued, so you are here for this? Of course. Yi Qingtang went on. I've already said all that I want to say. I'm sure that with the Crimson League's might, you'll be able to figure out whether I'm telling the truth. Is there any need to ask again? Bai Ji was about to speak when the person in black robes spoke up. We will investigate the ancient Yu clan ourselves. We came here today to inform you of something else. What is it? Just hearing the person in black robes speak was enough to send chills down Yi Qingtang's spine. Long ago, you promised the League that you would find the Netherworld ring and present it to the Elder. You've already been dragging this matter for tens of thousands of years, and it's time for you to fulfill your promise. It was at this moment that Yi Qingtang saw what was under the person's robes. His head was surrounded by black mist, and she could not make out his features at all. Her hands turned cold. She was taken aback as she heard what he said. Netherworld ring? What in the world was that? The Holy Lord of Shadows owed the Crimson League something? She was doomed. Why was there something else she had to settle when she hadn't even sorted out the ancient Yu clan yet? Chapter 1988, Netherworld Ring 1? Was this even real or were they just testing her? Yi Qingtang didn't rush to reply. To the people there, it looked as though she was responding with silence. 7 days. You have 7 days to deliver the Netherworld ring to the Frost Abyss. If you break your promise, the Crimson League is not going to let it go that easily. Seeing that Yi Qingtang was choosing to remain silent, the person in black robes spoke up again. Without saying anything else, he left with Bai Ji and the other alien race man on the black mist. Even after they left, Yi Qingtang couldn't relax. She had thought it strange that the Crimson League was coming to the Temple of Shadows to investigate the ancient Yu clan. So it turned out, they had come for this. But she had no idea how true the matter with the Netherworld ring was and whether this was the reason the Crimson League was so unhappy with the Temple of Shadows. The people from the Crimson League are as flamboyant as usual, the demon tribe leader said once the three of them had left. The Crimson League has great jurisdiction after all. Weren't they the same when our Holy Lord brought us to the first domain all those years ago? If not for the fact that the Holy Lord had promised to find the Netherworld ring for them, they would have caused so much more trouble for us, Xuefu said with a sigh. Hearing their conversation confirmed the truth of this matter for Yi Qingtang. Where was she supposed to find the Netherworld ring? She was reminded of the Dharma treasures the Holy Lord of Shadows had left behind and decided to look through them carefully once she was back. The Holy Lord of Shadows had indeed promised to deliver the Netherworld ring to the Crimson League, but the Crimson League had been preoccupied with some matters in the second domain and had not asked the Holy Lord of Shadows for it yet. And once they had finally found their footing, the Holy Lord had vanished. So the first reason that the Crimson League had removed the Temple of Shadows from the League was the vanishing of their strongest fighter, the Holy Lord of Shadows, and the second was the fact that the Holy Lord had not delivered the Netherworld Ring as she had promised. Yi Qingtang was about to retire to her room to look for the Netherworld Ring when the ancient clan people ran towards her with bitter expressions on their faces. She saw that many of them were injured. The Crimson League ambassadors had not pulled any punches. Holy Lord, the Crimson League. One of the ancient clan elders looked at her with a difficult expression. They had thought that the Crimson League was reinforcement that Yi Qingtang had called it but had soon realized that it wasn't the case. After all, the people from the central mainland were nothing to the Crimson League. If not for Xue Fu, they would have all died in the hands of the Crimson League. Ill deal with the Crimson League. All of you just take care of your wounds, Yi Qingtang said. The ancient clan all sighed with relief as they saw her come forward. They had been afraid that she would kick them out because of the Crimson League. Their lives would be horrible if she chose to do that. Under the grateful gazes of the ancient clan, Yi Qingtang quickly went back to her room and asked Xue Fu to call Ling Yan immediately. Xue Fu was lost for words. Holy Lord, your underlings have no idea how to deal with your sudden thirst for men. To think that the Holy Lord was calling for a man so quickly after seeing the Crimson League. Had she been reminded of the past after seeing Bai Ji? But he didn't say anything and left to find Ling Yan. Xue Fu paused for a moment at Ling Yan's door before saying, Young Master Ling. Chapter 1989, Netherworld Ring, 2. Is there anything I can help you with, Guardian? Ling Yan asked. With a difficult expression on his face, Xue Fu frowned and hesitated for a moment before saying, Now that the central mainland is in danger, we can only count on the Holy Lord to protect us. If young Master Lin can make the Holy Lord happy, you have our thanks. Seeing that Yi Qingtang had been with Ling Yan a lot lately, he mistakenly thought that she needed him to vent her frustrations. Ling Yan looked at Xue Fu's sincere expression and the edges of his lips curled into a smile. I will be sure to service the Holy Lord as well as I can. Service? Xue Fu nodded silently. Ling Yan's status as a male pet was becoming more and more real. Back in her room, Yi Qingtang had taken out all of the Holy Lord of Shadows Dharma artifacts and was inspecting them one at a time. She found 7 to 8 rings but had no idea which was the Netherworld ring, if any at all. Ling Yan pushed open the door. Before he could even step in, Yi Qingtang had rushed up to the door and pulled him in, shutting the door with a loud thud. Xue Fu, who was standing outside, was at a loss for words. Holy Lord, make sure to take care of your body. You came at the right time. The people from the Crimson League just came and left. She quickly summarized the events for him. So, you're looking for the Netherworld ring? Ling Yan looked at the rings laid out in front of her. She nodded. Do you know what the Netherworld ring looks like? She felt that there was nothing in this world that Ling Yan didn't know. He spoke up. Yes. Yi Qingtang's heart leaped with joy. That's great. Help me take a look then, and tell me which is the Netherworld ring. Ling Yan glanced at the rings. Congratulations, Miss Yi. Yes. The rings here are all extremely powerful. I know. I'm asking you which is the Netherworld ring. It's not here. What? Yi Qingtang was startled. Ling Yan repeated, the Netherworld ring isn't here. Yi Qingtang was speechless before she withered instantly in despair. You're telling me that the Netherworld ring isn't here? Ling Yan nodded and said, the aura of death around the Netherworld ring is strong and just a light touch will make you feel extremely cold. With that, he placed the rings into her hands one by one to let her feel them. None of them felt like the Netherworld ring. So it's not here. Yi Qingtang's head was starting to hurt. The Holy Lord of Shadows might have taken the Netherworld ring, Ling Yan suggested. Resting her chin on one hand, Yi Qingtang could only sigh. She had wanted to stir up some trouble between the Crimson League and the ancient Yu clan so that they would deal with the threat, but now that the Netherworld ring was gone, the Crimson League was unlikely to help them. Seeing her disappointed expression, Ling Yan was about to speak up when her eyes suddenly lit up and she quickly looked to him. He laughed as she fixed him with her bright eyes. Miss Yi, I won't be able to restrain myself if you look at me like this. Yi Qingtang had no time to deal with his antics at the moment and quickly grabbed his hand, asking, So you know what the netherworld ring looks like? Looking at his hand in hers, Ling Yen nodded silently. Draw it. Draw it right now. Yi Qingtang dragged him over to a table and pushed him down, handing him a piece of paper.